everybody. Today is October 15th, 2019. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Here.
Commissioner Way.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Flowers.
Here.
Commissioner Rivers.
All right. I guess you all have gotten a copy of the agenda and the way we would like to change it. So I'd like to make a motion that we, unless there's any discussion on it, let me make a motion that we approve the,
Oh, I have something to add to it.
okay,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have the minutes available today from October 3rd, the final trim meeting. And it's not listed on here.
okay.
I have a couple things if we can.
Well, let's do the first thing. Let's just do the approval of the agenda.
Well, that's what I'd like to add, a couple of things if we're going to. First, my question is, we've never, ever approved the agenda. And apparently at the last meeting, Tom Rivers added this to our process. Don't we need?
As the acting chairman.
Okay, don't we need to, if we're going to change our procedures, don't we need to approve that as a board?
No, the agenda's under control of the chairman. And,
Okay.
and adoption of the agenda is a
So that's something
standard-
we've never done before, but all of a sudden we're doing.
Yeah, it's a standard thing to do.
But we've never done it before, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right, right.
And
It's-
you're telling me, as our legal counsel, that that does not, a change in procedure at the board does not need to be approved by the board?
Not in the-
that this is
not-
under the-
Not in how a meeting is run, no.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple of things that I can add to it for a vote to be approved.
Well, it's up to the chairman, but you can certainly suggest them.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'd like to do just a quick update on what's going on over at May Street, that little boat landing at May Street. Just a quick update, it's a few minutes. And I'd also sent a copy of the cost of video recording. So I'd just like to be able to have a quick discussion about that. And the one last thing I'd like to add is if I can get a motion on approval of 2 hours of overtime so that the sheriff helicopter could do some wonderful pictures at low tide for us over at Summer Haven. And they said no more than 2 hours. So I would like to, if I can put that on the agenda.
Sandy, we need to be out of here before 5:30. They said they have another meeting going on.
Okay.
We have a lot of stuff to go through this, but I mean, I have no problem with putting those things on the agenda.
I could probably get by with just doing the 2 hours of overtime and
Okay.
doing the other, putting the other ones on the next month's agenda.
Adding that onto this agenda.
Yeah, we can add that on for under,
The others we could do on the next agenda.
yeah, new business, okay.
Okay.
Okay, now, adoption and approval of the agenda. Any questions or with regard to it?
I move approval.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so everybody's unanimous. Okay. All right, public comment, 5 minutes per individual. Does anybody from the public have anything to say?
You did it last time.
Good afternoon, Ed Slavin, Bucks.
Just a minute, just a minute.
Start, stop. Start, stop.
Okay,
Ed Slavin, Box 3084, cleanupcityofstaugustine.blogspot.com. First of all, I'd like to welcome Sergeant Dominic Giannotta from the St. Augustine Beach Police Department. I called on Chief Hardwick at 2:53 as a result of the chairman's behavior, and I requested that the police be here to avoid and prevent any breach of the peace by the chairman. Now, calling your attention to the 1 inch thick of documents that I received from the board secretary treasurer a few minutes ago, I'd like to ask that these documents be spread upon the minutes. I haven't had a chance to read them all totally. I am a speed reader. My dad did say I have ESP, but I just got them. But the very first page after the cover letter is a letter dated April the 3rd of 2013 to James Bedsole Esquire, 7 Old Mission Avenue, St. Augustine, Florida, respondent Barry Benjamin, regarding Florida Elections Commission complaint FEC 12-174, and it refers to Mr. Bedsole and his client, Barry Benjamin. Now, it was a conflict of interest for Mr. Bedsole to represent Mr. Benjamin, and for that reason, I call on you not to even put on the agenda today and not even to consider a contract with Mr. Bedsole, who has a conflict of interest. He can't represent the board and the chairman. The chairman was complained against in his personal capacity, and that is a very serious legal ethics breach. At any rate, let me inquire before I proceed further. Mr. Chairman, I tried to ask you the question, and you wouldn't answer it before the meeting. We get public comment on every single agenda item where you're taking a vote during that discussion. Is that correct?
You have public comment at the end,
So I have to have
not each individual item.
Well, you're wrong, and you're violating, again, Florida Statute 286.0114. So I have to comment now on everything that's coming before y'all before the end?
Comment now, whatever you want to say, and then you have
Okay,
comment
you're breaking
at
the
the
law
end.
once again. You need to have television coverage of these meetings, and you need to have a schedule. Stop looking at your watch, Mr. Vice Chairman. That's very rude. Reminds me of George Bush. You need to have a discussion of the conflict of interest involving your putative attorney, who's never had a contract, representing the chairman in his individual capacity when he has an ethics complaint against him. I once asked your attorney for a list of his clients, and he wouldn't produce it. That's why he wouldn't produce it, because he represents at least one of y'all in his individual capacity, and that's unethical. Now, the engineering contract you have on your agenda, it is not complete. It's purporting to be an amendment to a 29-year-old contract. The 29-year-old contract is not in evidence, so I would suggest y'all move to table that contract and not consider it at this meeting. That contract expired last year. Your attorney's never had a contract. Your secretary-treasurer has never had a contract. You haven't voted to renew them ever, and because I raised those issues, you're now fixing to just rubber stamp whatever they put in front of you. And in the terms of the attorney contract, he actually says in that contract that obviously you haven't gotten independent legal advice on that one either. He actually says in that contract that his invoices are to be approved by the secretary-treasurer. She's not a government employee. You are the only government employees in this room with this board. You need to be approving those invoices, not a part-time hired hand independent contractor who's never submitted timesheets, near as I can tell. And this board needs to answer the question I asked in the St. Augustine Record column on September the 8th of 2019. Need to answer, could you please gavel them to order? There's some people talking behind me, rather disturbing, rather disrespectful. You need to answer the question, this board does, that I asked on September the 8th, 2019 in the St. Augustine Record about the 7th-generation test. People have been in St. Augustine now, Europeans anyway, for 22 years. And what is this board doing about global ocean level rise? What is this board doing to prepare our port and our waterways and our beaches? And I asked a bunch of questions at prior meetings, including the budget meetings. Y'all shut me down. Mr. Rivers shut me down. The chairman shut me down. Mr. Rivers actually said it's not on the agenda to answer questions. And just before this meeting, the reason I called the police is Mr. Benjamin actually said to me, don't talk to me. Y'all work for us under our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And you need to treat the people with dignity, respect, and consideration, and you need to start to obey the law. There's enough law breaking in this district to...
Time's up.
I've never had anybody say time's up that way, quite like you. You're rude.
Thank you.
You're not welcome.
Okay. All right, now we're moving right along. Anybody else, public comment? Nobody else? Okay. All right, Secretary Treasurer's report, auditor contract.
Okay, well, I'll start with the treasurer's report, because that will be the final one for the fiscal year that just ended. Okay. For the city police overtime of the $8,000 we committed, we've spent $1,840. Of the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department overtime of the $20,000, the port has spent $10,962. Derelict boats, we spent $9,000. We haven't spent anything on unspecified marine projects. Navigational repairs, we did go over budget. It was originally committed at $10,000. We've spent $18,480. Basically, we were really about $50,000 under budget for the year. Our total spent was $474,000, and our taxes budgeted was $526. So we were under budget. And in the Summer Haven account balance, there is $700 left.
Can I ask a question about that? I thought we just approved $92,000 to go into that account, no?
We did.
Okay.
We did, but I'm not moving it over into a separate account. I'm just going to leave it in our.
It's in our main account,
Yeah,
so the money
well,
would,
it's actually in our reserve account, so it's earning interest. So until we need to move the money to cover Summer Haven expenses.
so the plantings that we just did, was that able to come out of the Summer Haven?
Out of regular, yeah, that's our, we approved that for the port approved to pay for that.
Right, but
Right.
it didn't come, so the Summer,
So, right, it's probably 16,700 approximately.
okay, so we put $92,000 in there for Summer Haven, and how much did we spend on the aquatic plants already?
16,000.
16, just so I know how much left, okay.
Okay, the other thing is we are getting ready to start our new audit, new year-end audit for 18 to 19, and September 30th of 2019. We have always used Carr, Riggs and Ingram, but when they went up in price, I decided to make some phone calls because it was almost double to 9,000. But then I found out that most government audits start at 15,000. So we've kind of been getting at the lower price that they've always, because we've had them for so many years.
I'm sorry, are we discussing rehiring the auditor? I'm not sure what we're.
Yes, it's,
Okay, because we got
redoing their
another bid.
contract.
Okay, we got another bid on that too, that
I
you
did.
guys sent to me.
Yes,
So the
Todd,
question
I
is,
did.
I don't even know how that other account.
I sent them both.
Right, yeah, I got it. My question is, I was amazed we got a bid because we didn't advertise it. I didn't even know how. The other accounting firm was aware.
I had to go make the phone calls because
Okay,
there's
well,
very
why don't we
few-
just put it out for bid?
I just want to finish saying what I need to say, and then you can interrupt me. I spoke to Todd Neville, who is another accountant in town, only other one who will do government accounting. The other companies I got in touch with was Janice Brown, Kresge Abear, Cini & Cini, and Platt, and none of them will do it. There is an auditor in Jacksonville that will do it, but they charge also, and I have to call them back if I want it, depending on what you want to do. So Carr, Riggs and Ingram is local. They have been doing our audits for since it was Davis Monk. So it's been at least for over 20 years, but they also know the port. They know, and anybody coming in new will start from scratch and it will cost the port a lot.
I'm not sure why you're arguing for somebody, at least that's supposed to take place with the discussion amongst the
But because
commissioners.
I'm the one who works with the auditor and does the treasurer's report and does all the accounting, that's why I was chosen to go ahead and find an auditor.
Who chose you to do that, though?
It's just automatic, we do it every 3 years, that's what it is.
Okay, it needs to be done every 2 years according to the charter and state law. Every contract that this board has must be reviewed for performance and then must be completely reenacted every 2 years, or else it's in violation of public policy and the contract is no good. Just like what you're holding right now, if we had a problem, your insurance would not cover you because the contract is in violation of public policy. So the taxpayers are stuck with no insurance behind your professionalism.
No,
I'm just asking the board if we're going to elect another auditor.
Letter that you can fire us at any time. There's nothing that says you can't in the contract. It's not It's just that every 3 years is when the rates go up. That's it.
Right, but see, we
Otherwise,
have
you
to
could
follow
just-
this, we have to follow the law. We have to.
It is the law. I
No,
mean-
ma'am, the charter is our law, and about 11 other statutes apply to this board as well. And one of them
Elise,
is we must renew
question.
this every 2 years. See, for example, Matt and I are new commissioners. We've never had a chance to review your contracts, had to do all that on my own to figure out what's going on, and as we found out, none of them are valid. Or, in fact, Mr. Bedsoul's never had a contract. So we don't have any insurance backing him up either. It really leaves the taxpayer in a hole. But I would just ask the board, if we're going to choose something, that we do it amongst the board and we bid it out.
Well, I think she's going to give us the information.
That's what I
See,
did. I got the bid.
She's pretty much the expert at that. I mean, I have no experience in it. I doubt if anybody else here on the board has any experience with auditors and government.
That's why I bring it to
But that's
you.
why we bid it out, so each company that thinks they could possibly do a better job, maybe for a better price, could come to the board and discuss that with us.
She does that for a living. You know, she's-
Actually, no, sir, she's a bookkeeper.
Well, she's
No, I'm an accountant and an
Yes.
enrolled agent. and-
You're just not elected to work for this commission is
No,
all.
I was appointed, ma'am.
Okay, by whom? The
The
governor can, no,
board.
no, ma'am, I've asked you for that, and you have not given it to me, and you said, wait,
Charter said I
I'm
can be
talking.
Hey, wait a minute.
It is over 3 years old, and you
Let's not get
cannot have a
argument.
3-year-old contract.
Mr. Flowers, let's not get
I
argumentative.
have a question.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Okay, Elise, we received two, one from Neville and one
There's
from,
no other local company that I
Right,
checked
right.
on. Because
Okay.
if had we gotten more, I would have given you.
right, I understand. But are we going to decide which one to adopt
Well,
today?
the problem we have is because our year ended September 30th, and your audits are due by June 15th. That's when the audit is due, by June 15th.
June
So-
15th, 2020?
Yeah. So, and that means, but they have to, an audit doesn't take, it's not like it's a 5-minute thing, it's.
Well, again, are we supposed to decide
It's all your
between
your
these
books.
two?
Well, between those two, Mr. Neville was very nice, but his prices were gonna start at he was gonna lower it for this year and then raise it next year and start at 15, because that's how he starts. He said most companies start at 15,000, whereas Carr, Riggs and Ingram were at 9. And actually, we're getting it for 70, I think it said 75.
That is so strange to me. There must be a
I'm still
reason why.
talking.
Oh, excuse me.
The audit fees in Neville says, based on the statements, we have determined that the appropriate fees for the service requested are $7,000.
Right, and he told me that he's gonna start low because of how we've always been, he went over the Carr, Riggs and Ingram contract and looked at our financials through Carr, Riggs and Ingram, what they produced. And actually, it's almost like a double audit is what Carr, Riggs and Ingram did. So, and he said they can't do that for under 15, but he will do it for 7 for the first year. And that's all he could promise me. Where Carr, Riggs and Ingram, I think it's like 3 years, I'm not sure. It changes, they're gonna go up from, I think they started at, I don't remember what they're, off the top of my head.
What's your recommendation for?
Well, it's up to the court. I work with the auditors, but my recommendation is to stay with Carr, Riggs and Ingram, but it's ultimately up to the court's decision.
Now, let's open it up for discussion. Anybody having discussion with regard to that?
I'll just make a motion that we
I'd like to
choose
discuss it before
Carr,
we make a motion.
Riggs and Ingram to do the audit.
Can we discuss it before we make a
Well, we have a
motion?
motion, a second, and
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
I made the motion
I'll second it.
for a second.
So we're going to vote on it before we discuss it.
No,
Well, you're making the motion. If you've
Now we
seconded
can
it, I'm
discuss it. We
assuming
just
that a
said we're
vote
gonna
is coming
discuss it.
next.
Follow
Discuss
the
it.
motion in a second. So you can go ahead and talk about it.
Go ahead.
Are we ready for discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I hope I'm not the only one on this board to say this, but these 20 and 30-year contracts with absolutely nobody looking over them, I'm sure that we can do better. I am absolutely certain that state law has changed since a 20-year-old contract and certainly a 30-year-old contract has been written. I know it's changed because our engineering contract is missing some of that. So why are we just ready to vote? No, I absolutely not. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with the way they're auditing. They've certainly caught every year the conflict of interest that Miss Elise Kemper has in writing the checks and accounting for the checks at the same time. She's never been elected as Secretary Treasurer, and it seems like no one else cares about that law in our charter. I say it over and over again. Will somebody at least address that? That this person is working illegally. She's written checks for $87,000 illegally, and yeah, I've had it checked. That was illegally what our engineer pulled off for Turnbill there at the end of Summer Haven. I would start over with everybody, and this port and the taxpayers deserve to have this every job done for us, bidded out to the best player. That might even not be the cheapest, might be somebody that watches over our money a little bit better. But I would like to have a chance to at least talk to them. And you guys just rubber stamp the same contracts year after year after year, or 3, 4 years. Often they expire.
What would the process actually look like to bid this out? What would the process actually look like to bid this out?
Well, I make the calls to find out who actually will do a government audit.
You
There's
don't
not
have to call
There's not like a
them.
public posting or something? We just put something in the newspaper?
No, not usually, no.
Then you're doing it wrong.
No, the port is not required to bid.
For certain amounts, it depends on what you're paying. It depends on what you're paying. For under $35,000, you're not required to bid it out.
No.
It doesn't mean that we can't bid it out.
can
By
bid
the
it out.
way, at the end of the year, she often makes more than that.
You can bid
By
it
the
out.
time all of the things she has added up, we may only pay her, what, $1,100 a month?
It's not required to be bidded out.
Right, but she does a lot more for this port and gets paid, at what, $50 an hour?
We're talking about the auditor right
Right.
now, though, which
I'm
is
just
under the
saying.
$35,000 limit.
Not to me, ma'am.
You're having, this is who you have suggesting the auditor is the same person who's worked with them for 20 years. No, I think compared to what we have seen on this board this year, we've got an expired contract here with no contract here, one that violates public policy. This is not my opinion. It's not my opinion. It's a legal opinion, multiple legal opinions. Can't believe you're sitting in the chairs that you are, and we have a chairman that doesn't even live in the district and never has.
So to keep it on the subject of the auditor, what would it take to actually bid this out? Not have you go do the legwork yourself, but to bid it out in a public bidding process. What does that look like?
I guess you'd have to advertise it in the newspaper, and then you'd have to have somebody, and then obviously it would have to be, I mean, you guys can't, so it would have to come to our office, and we would have to set up when they would like to come up and talk about what they
Yeah,
would
they're
do.
usually sealed bids, and they're collected. and then
No,
there's a-
right.
If we get any bids in the first place. But I'm wondering from a process perspective, is that going to cost us thousands of dollars and take 6 months? Or is it something that we could spend $150 on and we'd have our answer by our next meeting, whether or not anybody even wanted to bid on it?
It depends on how much time the accounting firm has to put into it, but I don't think it's a real time-consuming type thing.
Bid out?
Get the bid out, and then you take bids, and then you open them. And whichever one is the lowest responsive bidder, they have to be qualified to do the job. You can't have anybody do it.
Sure.
Have we, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have we ever had any issues with any previous audit? Nobody's red flagged anything, nobody said there's
No, Car Rigs, and
something?
it used to be Davis Monk. We used to have Davis Monk, and then it went to Car Rigs and Ingram. It was a very large firm.
Mr. Chairman, I'll
And they-
restate my
they-
motion that we accept Carr, Riggs, and Ingram to do our audit for 2000.
Do we have a second on that? You
Yes,
made
I
a second?
seconded it.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question? Do anybody sitting on this board do business with that firm?
No.
I don't.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so take a roll call vote to make the motion to go with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram.
Okay, can I make a motion that we pursue bidding it out? I don't see that there's a significant downside to waiting
Well, the only.
another month.
No.
I
that's
second
fine.
that motion.
We could do that. And that would be fine. The sooner the better, because like I said.
Sure, yeah.
We're in October, so this is starting the new year.
See, this
The
is why we
person-
should have done this in November when the board sat.
This
We have a
person
motion and a
coming
second.
in, the audit started October is when it starts. You sign off on the auditor, and they come in during that time and do the audit. And then, the longer you wait,
So we can make a,
depending on, can I please finish?
please
The
do,
long-
please do. Please do.
Sandy,
When you
calm-
take long pauses, I think you're done.
Sandy, calm down just a minute. Go ahead.
The longer we take to come up with to pick an auditor, it's going to be more difficult, especially if you pick a new one. And obviously it will cost more because they've never done the St. Augustine Port waterway before. So
Mr.
that would be the only downside is when you wait and then they have to, I don't want an audit rushed by any means, but I don't think they would anyway if they're a government auditor. They're going to do, if they're reputable, obviously they'll do a good job. But the longer you wait, the more difficult it is.
Right.
Okay.
Could we put it on next month's agenda that would make a decision for next
We
month's
already
agenda?
have,
Motion and a second on
yeah,
the
we have a
floor.
second,
You deal with-
a motion. Call the roll. Vote.
What are we voting on? I'm sorry.
To go with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram.
Wait a minute, he put up a motion and I wanted to second it
We had a second.
to bid, okay? So we are not going to follow that motion then.
You got- you
I'm
have
just
one
saying,
on the floor.
Mr.
We have one on the floor right now. Let's vote on what we
Let's
have right
stay
now.
organized so we
Right.
can just get through
Right.
this.
But it's so connected, if he's got a motion that says we'd rather put it out to bid and you guys go ahead and vote on that, what's the
That
point?
motion was first.
The motion on the floor is the motion I made.
Yeah, they have to do it in
To
sequence.
accept Carr, Riggs, and
Okay.
Ingram. Now call the question.
All right. So
Doing
please,
a
roll call, yeah.
for
To take Carr, Riggs, and Ingram,
Commissioner Benjamin,
yes.
Commissioner Rivers,
Yes?
Commissioner Way,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
No.
Commissioner Flowers.
Absolutely not.
Motion passed.
And I would like to state, it's very curious why our secretary is so intent on that one company taking this, I'm not finished yet, you didn't want me to interrupt you? So intent on taking a contract that's over 20 years old without us even looking at the contract.
You sent the contract out, didn't you, police? Okay. Yeah, we all
I do not
got it.
have an auditor's contract. I didn't get it.
Okay.
Sent one out, I sent Mr. Neville's and
I saw Mr. Neville's.
and Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. I sent them
Okay.
both out.
Yep, I saw the Carr, Riggs.
I saw both of them.
Yep,
Want
so
a
did I.
copy of it?
No, if it came with that same email, it's in there.
Yep, we got them. Okay. All right, so we are approval of the minutes, of the regular meetings held on September, I can't say the date on mine.
17th.
17th, let's see, and first public hearing held on,
September
regular
7th.
meeting and the
17th.
first, same thing, September 17th, approval of the minutes.
And also the October 3rd minutes, you said, Tim?
October
The
3rd,
final-
yes.
Final public hearing.
Okay. Any additions or anything?
Well, I wasn't here on October 3rd, so I
Okay.
can't speak to
Yeah, I
that.
wasn't here the 17th, so. You guys have anything?
No.
No?
I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Was that unanimous?
Well, I'm
Sandy,
not sure I
No.
should vote on October 3rd. I wasn't present for that, so, I
You're
mean,
abstaining from the vote, or?
I'll need some guidance from the legal. I wasn't here on
You can
October
vote.
3rd.
You can vote up or down.
Okay, I vote that we approve it.
So who voted no?
Me.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'd also like to qualify that, no, it's because your minutes are never as accurate as they should be, and that's why I don't approve them. The city does a much better job. It's just a statement, I don't want to argue with you, sir, because you're not our lawyer. You have no business advising me. You're not my lawyer for this board. And I checked with the state on that, sir. Please do not advise this board another thing.
Chairman, can I say something?
Yes,
No,
go
sir.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
If any of you want to add or find something wrong with the minutes, you say that whenever we ask you.
Everything's wrong with them. Redo them so that they're accurate in every way.
Chairman, she's out of order.
You can call him, we've all done that. If we see something.
So I would suggest that if you have any additions to the minutes you want to make, tell me.
That's why we approve
I
it.
know that's your job. I'm always doing your job, sir. You do your job. You make sure those minutes are right.
That's enough.
I don't, come on, stop. I have the right to respond to him, without you calling me down. I have the right to complete my sentence to him, without you doing what you're just doing just
You don't
now.
have to get adversarial.
I'm not adversarial. I'm angry because of what you guys are allowing to go on in this board, and you're about to get a wave of public opinion coming against you on this.
Go to the agenda.
Okay, now, contract renewal, engineering report. Okay.
And nothing new to report. I did provide the contract amendment. It would be a 2-year extension of the prior one, so it would expire on December 31st of 2020. So if you'd like us to, we'd be happy to continue providing our services.
All right.
Before we do that, Mike, is there something that Taylor is supposed to be doing with the permit related to the county's work down at the south end of Summerhaven right now?
I've been coordinating with the county, trying to get some work going on down there in that Hurricane Matthew breach area. I'm helping them get into their permit, get excavation of the river worked into their permit. And I also did request from the Corps of Engineers an extension of your Department of the Army permit, which expires on November 18th of this year. So I spoke to Mark Evans at the Corps, and it won't be a problem to get that extension. They just have to figure out how long they can extend it for.
Now, the emergency work is being done now under the permit, is that correct?
Yes, the county is
breach.
working under the Port District's state and Department of the Army permits.
But the other phase has still not been responded to, is that correct, from the county on the, going forward under the permit?
Right, they're still looking into digging out the river to build that FEMA dune, but, you know, that's still in consideration. They haven't made any decisions yet.
So you don't, there's no anticipation of when they're gonna respond, is that correct? I mean, is there anything you can do to,
I believe that they plan on constructing that project sometime in the first half of next year, but I don't know when they're going to
Oh.
make a decision on what borrow source that they're
that's
going
what
to
they call the fast track? 6 months. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we're at the,
Are we discussing the engineer contract?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, these are the reasons I think we should look for a new engineer. And again, as with every single one of those positions of our contractors, we should bid them out. The contract is 29 years old. It has definitely cost us the $92,000 in FEMA money because according to the state, our engineer cannot give an inspection at the end of a contract. You must, any kind of services, including dredging, any kind of services over $1 million contract, you have to set up intermediate inspections of that, and that is what cost us the $92,000 in FEMA. Multiple contracts have expired throughout the years. I asked Ms. Kemper to send me the contracts. I didn't get them at all, but multiple times their contracts have expired, showing just a disregard for this port and for the taxpayers. You have illegally spent the $87,000, and boy, did I check on that. The three of you guys are on the hook for that. You illegally spent it, you can shake your head. This board did not approve the disbursement of $87,000 that you paid to Mr. Turnbull at the end of a contract that he walked out on that was not complete. You can call it all day. I can't move a kayak through there at low tide. There's no way. I've got 1.5 feet for 100 feet wide. It didn't happen. We have the pictures of that. That's a big deal. You not only cost us $92,000, you spent $87,000 that was under contest. You told a fib, and I'm going to say it nicely, you told a fib about the completion and the status of the Summerhaven River project as it was going along, starting in March. Every meeting, it was going to be done to expectations, every meeting, every meeting. At the end of that time, in May, when you said they were going back to get the high spots, they didn't go get the high spots. They went and dug a big hole and drove right over to Sand Dune and put it out there on David White's vacation rental house. That's what you called going back and get the high spots, driving over a berm that was just built. You allowed Mr. Turnbull to do the plantings of that, and I've got the pictures of those plantings. When they went in, and 3 days later, it looked like he stopped on the side of the road and picked up a bunch of trash and poked it into the sand. That's what he got $22,000 for plantings. And the most important thing, sir, as an engineering point of view, is you told this board that the reason we are having the problems with Summerhaven we have now, why it's not navigable, you told us on multiple times, and the Friends of Summerhaven, it was because you couldn't get the right equipment up under the bridge. So I did a lot of checking on that, and that was supposed to be our big problem. We did the best we could with the equipment we could get under the bridge. Dr. Dredge was the subcontractor. After several calls with him, it turns out he could get under that bridge, not just with a bigger dredge, but with a 14-inch pipe. Not an 8-inch, not a 10-inch, which would have been 10 times the amount removal, but a 14-inch pipe. It was all of a sudden able to be done for, guess what? Another $300,000. That was to get started. So it was a fib the whole time that we had to do a poor job on this project because we couldn't get the equipment up there. Then I talked to Gator Dredge over in Clearwater. They said they'd get a 70-foot barge up there with easy a 14-inch pipe. And yet we were told over and over, we're going to have to do this bad job because we can only get the equipment up there. We also have a real problem. That Summer Haven contract is a bid by itself. Your continuing contract with this board does not imply that Taylor Engineering is going to be the head of this $2.7 million contract. Your position in that contract should have been bidded out. You cannot combine your continuing contract with this board with the work that you do on state projects like that. That whole thing should have been bidded out. We don't know these because we don't have a real lawyer that protects this board. This lawyer protects you and Mr. Turnbull, as far as I can tell. But those are the end of my reasons why we should bid out and get a new engineer. Thank you.
Helen, do you want to respond to that?
I've addressed all those comments in the past several times, so I have no other comment right now unless you have some specific questions for me.
You're not up yet, sir. You have public comments shortly. Okay. Contract renewal,
Are you gonna,
bid it out.
I'd like to make a motion that we bid it out.
again, I'd like to know what the process there is. I assume it's similar, right? Well, you take a month or two. There's no urgency to renew this right now, right?
Taylor Engineering is a private company. We don't need a contract to work for you. We can work under a handshake verbal agreement, so it's
Right.
really up to the port.
Yeah, I don't think there's any downside to bidding it out. I don't share Sandy's reservations with Taylor, certainly not to the degree that she feels them, but I don't see what the downside would be to
I'd
bidding it
also
out.
like to state, too, as part of the discussion, that Mr. Rivers keeps bringing up that we should just trust Taylor Engineering because they have a good reputation. There is nothing that I can find in the Special District Accountability Act, in the Special District Handbook, that enables us or gives us the right to just trust. All it does is tell us about oversight, oversight, oversight. I can't find anything in our entire office with oversight of the Summer Haven project. I finally got a contract from Lise just last week. You've been asked at least twice, how much did you make on this last Summer Haven project? You said you didn't know. I found the contract for $360,000. Where is that? We have no records of anything. We produce no oversight of the money he spends. And I say Taylor, I don't mean you, Mr. Trundak. But again, I make the motion that we bid this out to protect the taxpayer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's a question. It's not going to affect any of the work that we're continuing.
There is no work.
Isn't that what you had just mentioned, pretty much, that?
Is there anything that is being done right now?
No, I'm just saying if,
I definitely think if we're going to bid it out, we need to stop paying Taylor $2,000 a month
No,
just for coming to the meetings.
Well, I would not agree to that, no. We
I'm
can't not have an engineer.
That's why I brought it up.
Well, then I'm confused. What do we do? Do we continue paying
Well,
him?
Month to month.
Yeah, they've been month to
Still have
month.
to, if we don't have a written contract for that month, the insurance will not cover if something is done incorrectly.
Right, but we
We
have to have
can't
an
be doing these handshakes. Absolutely no handshakes. The state will not allow it.
Sure, but we have to have an engineer retained, even if we were to get a new engineer. We cannot go for, 2 or 3 months or whatever with no engineer whatsoever. So that was just what Chris was trying to clarify, that we will continue to have Taylor as our engineer.
Then we have to have a month-to-month contract.
Let me wrap this up real quick. Okay, so we have a motion to bid it out. Let's take a vote on it.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't, sir.
You didn't finish
Okay.
voting.
Okay.
You have,
Right, we have a motion to bid it out. We have a first and a second. Let's call a roll call vote on that. Sir, please be quiet. Okay. Go ahead. See?
Okay, Commissioner Benjamin,
Yes. Bid it out.
Commissioner Rivers,
no,
Commissioner Way,
Yes,
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flowers.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna bid it out, but you're still on month to month, okay?
Get that in
Unless-
writing, though, so
just-
that we can have the insurance.
And, you know, can we send the bids out within the next week and have an answer maybe in 30 days? So we don't have to keep on going on and on like this? Is that possible?
You are.
Let's see. Jim, is that something that the secretary can do?
Sure.
Okay, there you go.
Just put an advertisement in the paper.
Just
I
clarify.
wanna, yeah.
I'm just amazed that this board has existed for 75 years and does not know how to bid out a simple
It's not required to
contract.
bid. It's not required to bid, so it hasn't been bid.
This is the first.
It's very seldom there's been a bid, but I don't know if bidding out something like that is in your contract, your firm's contract, is it?
Oh, in ours?
Yeah.
We're just asking her to do the advertisement. She would not be doing the questions for the engineer. The engineer firm would come before the board and have a discussion.
Right.
So I'm saying, bidding out requires somebody draft a notice to go in the paper, and it gets filed in the paper, and then somebody has to receive the bids, somebody has to attend the bid opening, and somebody has to evaluate the bid.
Well, if we had elected a secretary treasurer, we would have somebody to do that.
Jim, is that something that's in your expertise?
Yeah, I could do it.
Okay, let's switch it to Jim, to our counselor to do that.
And Jim, a quick question on the month-to-month. Is there any support at any legal risk?
No, but look, Taylor's been doing this 30 years. They've charged us nothing for coming to meetings.
2,000 a month.
No, ma'am.
No.
That's on the
That's
contract.
a maximum.
Okay, that's on
That's a
the,
not to exceed cost per month. We don't spend that much to come to these meetings.
okay, how much do we pay Taylor Engineering each month as like a retainer or whatever we
I
do?
just charge my time.
What was the question?
Okay.
Sorry.
There's no legal risk.
No.
That's good enough
He is
for me.
correct that.
Listen, I will say to this board that we are taking advice from a man who has no legal opinion, no reason to give us the right opinion. We have no insurance for him to give us. If he misadvises us, we have nothing to lean against.
I'm gonna
He
take
has
my
no
chances.
contract, and he never has.
I think.
I'm gonna take my
Yeah,
chances.
Yeah, I think that our attorney's pretty qualified.
Well, I don't expect for you not to, Mr. Way. I just have to put it on the public record so that when you do so, you're doing it willingly and knowingly.
I'll take my
That's all.
chances.
Okay, anyway, back to that. We're gonna go ahead and bid it out. Mr. Bedsall will handle the bids when they come in. Make the appointments and people can come to the meeting, hopefully the next meeting.
I'd like a copy of everything you get, please, Mr. Bedsall, on that.
Certainly will.
Would you, I mean, would it be helpful to have a commissioner attend any of that? I'd be happy to
They'll come here.
be a part of that.
Well, we could talk about the procedure for it. If you just want people to come and make presentations in front of you, it'll be real easy.
I think that's the way to do
Show
it.
up, they'll bring a bid package, they'll present it, and I won't have to evaluate anything. You can evaluate it yourselves.
Okay, that would be best.
That's probably the easiest way to
That's,
do
I'd
it.
like to do that. All in favor of that? Yeah, okay.
Aye.
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 Okay. All right.
Derelict vessels.
Derelict vessels and the removal process. Sergeant Jerry Whitehead.
Sergeant Jerry Whitehead, San Augustine Police Department. Ms. Flowers, I hear you called me. I don't answer a desk phone. I will give you my phone number,
Okay.
but not over this public airway
Okay.
thing, okay?
Okay.
This will be short and sweet. Back in 2002, when we started our Marine unit, we hooked up with the Port Authority because y'all had the ability to help us with some things, remove derelict vessels, okay? We didn't have any other venue. The city didn't have the money to pay for it. So we formed a partnership that worked really well for 10 years. Us, FWC, and that's before Josh and all them really got into the boating thing, and now they've got into it, so it's gone county-wide. What I'm concerned with is inside the port's jurisdiction. Used to, we would identify a derelict boat. It would go through the process, notifying the owner, blah, 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 all the legal steps, and then come removal time, we would send out for bids. The city would send out for bids. And I believe Corey, I can't pronounce his last name. Sacred handles that for us. And once the bids come back in, we would forward the bill to the Port Authority, and they would pay to have it removed out of the port's jurisdiction. I don't know what happened to that process. That usually took us 4 months to get a boat out of the water. Now it's taken 9 to 11 months. Okay, there are 14 boats still derelict since 2015, 8 of which are inside the port's jurisdiction. The bidding process now, what we are doing now, from what I am told, is we go through the state. FWC has some funds, derelict vessel funds, and we request funds from them, and it takes forever. I want to go back to what we were doing. The Port Authority used to set aside $25,000 a year for derelict vessels. The average to pull a derelict vessel out, and we went on a 25-foot boat just as a basic one. If it's floating and it's still derelict, it's $1,900 to have it pulled out and destroyed. If it's submerged, it's $5,700. That was the average on the bids that we tracked backwards. I don't know how much money the Port Authority is willing to put into this, but it's in the port's best interest. I don't want to start on these 14 boats that we've already got. I would prefer that went through the bidding process it's going through now, let the state pay for that. But as of this month, if a boat is derelict in the port's jurisdiction, I would request that the port pay to have it removed. That's the whole gist of this conversation, okay? We've pulled 99 boats out since 2002, 99, and it's worked really good. You know it, you've seen them, okay? I know it because I did most of them. Josh and FWC have identified some really good ones throughout the outside of the Port Authority's jurisdiction. State money can handle that, okay? But what's in your jurisdiction? I just want to speed the process up because it's getting bad again.
There's 14
There's
inside the
there-
jurisdiction?
No, there's 8.
8 inside.
There's 14 still listed on the
Okay.
DV site, and we're going to go over that and make sure. And there are a few that I'm going to talk to Lieutenant Zukowski about that we may not pull. They are submerged and they're not in navigable waters. So rather than spend the money to pull them, they may become reefs. It just depends on what FWC suggests and all that. But that doesn't affect y'all because those are already out there. We're already gonna have the funds for that through the state. All I am asking is that a feasible proposition for the board to go back to the way it was? It worked so much better.
Sergeant Whitehead, I wasn't on the board then, but when a owner is notified and you find the owner, what is his liability long-term? I mean, if the port were to pay the money, what are the chances of us getting some kind of zero?
How many have you got? 'Cause I've got none.
Zero?
I have got none. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you a falsehood.
I can address that when I get.
Yeah, I have never had an owner pay. They have been charged, and some have been found guilty, and whatever the court decides, the court decides. But as far as regaining the monetary money that someone else puts out,
Now also, when it's floating, it's obviously much cheaper to get it out.
Yes, sir.
But I understand that the one at Connie Patel's house has
That
now
is-
been embedded in the bottom. And
that's, they bent the boom on that, I don't remember what size crane it was, so they're how many tons?
yeah,
It's
I had
100.
recommended Connie do an underwater hotel there. And he's going to consider it, he told me.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because it's not his fault that boat wound up on his dock, and I'd like to see us do everything we can to get it. It's being a booger. Probably what'll end up happening if they can't lift it, it'll be blown up in place and taken out in pieces. It's about the only way you could do it.
My God.
Bringing a 200-ton crane down. Go to the microphone.
We'll see.
And the city's having to foot the bill for that, or is
No,
that?
that keeps bidded out to the state contract.
Oh, the state
derelict
is
vessel
helping us
funds,
on that.
They're helping
Okay.
with that.
But you're saying that you've already got a line on dealing with the 14, the derelicts that are out there now.
There are 14 identified that are
Okay.
on the derelict vessel website in St. Johns County. Some of those are in St. Johns River. They don't affect you. Some of them are outside the port's jurisdiction, so I don't count those.
Okay.
And I just did a quick glance, so I may be off by one or
Right.
two. I think there's 8 inside the port's jurisdiction. Again, some of those are submerged and have been submerged for so long, it would damage, one of them's basically an oyster reef now. It would damage the bottom and the oyster reefs to pull it. So
Right.
why, it's
So
not an environment,
You're saying the 8 that are in our district, are they all in the navigable water? Or, I mean, how many do you need to get
One,
yanked?
two. Yeah, well, yes, everything inside the river is navigable waters. What is outside the channel is what I'm talking about submerged. We have 3 that are in the channel.
And so you're asking for the money going forward or?
Forward.
Okay.
Whatever else we identify, then we go back to what we were doing, which is do the process. It goes through the entire process. When it's time for removal, we send out for bids. We take care of all that as the city. When the bids come back, we tell someone, go get it. When they send us the bill comes to the Port Authority.
So what,
On the caveat that y'all were notified in between as to what the bid was.
right, but what's a time frame you said again before you can actually act on it? I mean, if it's a floating, then it's gonna
depends.
sink.
It depends.
And then
There's a
it's-
whole lot of variables on that. If it's a floating boat and I have to store it on land, it costs me money. So I store it floating for 90 days
Right.
and then I pull it.
Okay.
Um,
So what if it sinks and now it's just sitting on the bottom and still, I mean, is there time or is this every time it comes to us, this thing's gonna be embedded, it's gonna need dynamite to get it out?
No. I have yet to have a derelict vessel identified that's floating sink on me because we keep an eye on it. If it looks like it's gonna sink, then I contact the city and say, we need to pull this now, and we've never had a problem with them doing that.
Okay.
Right? No, I'm not gonna leave y'all with the higher bill when I can get.
Well, I didn't know whether or not it was out of your control and it's gonna be 6 months before you can do anything and,
I do, it's kind of funny, because I don't have jurisdiction in the county, I'm a city police officer, but I do everything inside the port, I go look at it. I always have, because they asked me to when I first began this process. And these guys all help immensely, so.
So the way you're asking is just go back to the way we used to do it, which would save you months and months and months from the way the state is
Yes,
doing
ma'am.
it currently.
The state bidding, I don't do it. I don't understand it. It's out of my purview. I just know it takes a long time to get a state contract back and say, go ahead and pull that boat.
And then
I mean,
finally-
Mr. Patel's, that's all been state, and it's been forever. I mean, we got one bid, and then they went over and looked at it and said, we can't do it, so we had to rebid it. So it just takes too long.
I make a motion that we go back to that original way if the board would agree.
Well, it
Where-
doesn't actually happen that way.
His process
I
that he
don't
just explained.
understand the process. I just know we used to do it that way, and I wanted to bring it back so y'all could consider it and tell me what we needed to do to make that happen again.
Which was, again, you identify the vessel, let us know what's going on, go ahead and get the bids, and then when it's time to do it, you get a check from us instead of waiting for months and months.
Done, y'all pay the bill,
Okay.
basically.
How does that differ from the process now, though? We have a $14,000 line item in our budget for derelict vessels.
Last year.
Sure, but I mean, we're paying for derelict vessel removal.
25,000, it's
Yeah.
been before.
Right, but I'm saying we pay for derelict vessel removal now, but just a more convoluted process? I don't understand.
He's gonna answer that question,
Okay.
Mr. Pickett is, because I don't get in on the bidding process. All I know is what used to occur was we could get a boat out in 4 months, now it's taken 8, 9, sometimes longer. I mean, there's boats still out there from 2015.
Mr. Pickett has that
Yeah.
procedure.
He has the procedure, that's his purview. I just came to address the old way we used to do it to see if we could possibly get going back to that again.
Okay.
All right?
thank you.
Jim Piggott, the city of St. Augustine. The change or the slight change that occurred was we used to have a $25,000 derelict vessel budget line item in your budget. We don't have that anymore. So when we get a quote to move a boat within the ports district, I come back to you. If we find a boat tomorrow, then I have to wait till the next meeting. Hey, we got this estimate to move this boat, get the approval, so we're not spending your money before we get the approval to start the process. That's one of the major issues, or changes, I should say. Going back to that boat with Kanti Patel, again, I agree with everything with Jerry. That's 1 in a million. We're on our third contractor. First one tried to pull it out with 2 boats. The second one came down with a 100-ton crane and it bent the boom. So now we're getting a crane with 200 tons.
Who was the second one, Jim? I know Yelton tried
It was
once.
Yelton, that was Yelton's.
The
He
second
was
one.
the second one, yeah.
He couldn't get
He
it.
couldn't get it. So now we're getting a crane from Jacksonville that's 200 tons. Hopefully that'll get it. But that one is a very unique one. It's not standard from anything that we've ever seen before. Rules were made to be, thought about in the sense that that's in the Port District, that would cost you $29,000 to pull that one boat. And that's when I came back, I said it went up from 14,000 or 15,000 to 29,000. That's why part of that's FWC. So on special items like that, we'll see if we can get a match out there to help defray the cost for the Port District.
Okay, but what we're talking about now is going forward.
Yes, going forward.
So what do you feel about the difference with using the state? Should we use state funds or do it the way we used to do it and just take care of all of it
I'd
ourselves?
like to get them out as soon as possible, but it's your money if it's within the Port District.
The question isn't about funds, though, it's about how they're used, right? What you want is also to be able to use the money without having to come back to a meeting on a case-by-case basis to get approval?
The way it happened back in 2012, there was a $25,000 line item.
Right.
I'd come back and say, hey, we got a contract, we're pulling this boat, it's $5,600, there's
And then we would approve.
$24,400 left. And then if we ever, which we did back in 2012, we pulled 99 boats. Hey, we'd like to get another $12,000 in there before the end of the year. That's what our estimate is. We are at a much better place than we were back then. So I can't imagine, except for this one boat, reaching a $25,000 level, the line in the sand, if you will.
But even without that line item sitting out there, and you said there was 14,000 or something, there was something in it this year? I don't know.
14.
But even without that, if it's going to take us 3 to 4 months, you would have enough time to simply come into the next meeting, say we've got a problem, and we could just approve it without even establishing a new procedure.
Well, as Jerry said, that all depends where they are with notification process, waiting the appropriate time
Right.
frame.
Well, I
What do
wouldn't
you think
expect
we
you to
should
come
do?
here
Boats and bids.
without a boat in the district, so. I mean, if you came here on a case-by-case
If it was
basis.
a boat outside the district,
Yes.
we'd go to FWC.
Yeah, that's fine,
Right.
okay.
But we
see
could
a
just still
problem
do
with
it on a case-by-case and still have plenty of time without holding up the process?
We should.
Okay.
We should.
Okay, so what do we have, 25,000 this year for the?
No,
Joyce?
we don't have, you guys didn't come up with a figure for this year.
But what Jerry said, agree 100%. We just want to be able to get the boats out quickly. We don't even want to mess with FWC for boats inside your district, unless it's like the Conti Patel boat, which is a lot of money, and just get these boats moving.
Okay.
If we-
Come tell us, and I'm sure we're going to take care of it for you.
That was the thing, the notification, because I
Right.
don't know how the port was notified before. I
Right.
know back then Sergeant Fricky didn't come here each time. I know someone from the city, and I think it was Tim, would call or email here and say, this is what the bid is out. But I don't care. I mean, if it takes coming here each Port Authority meeting, saying, we've identified 3 derelict vessels that we're going to pull eventually, let you know ahead of time, and then let you know what the cost is.
I think you
How
could
much-
email the secretary and we could
Yeah.
discuss it.
How much
then.
money is the chair allowed to spend on a case?
6,000.
6, so you could do any of these.
Just in, Navico, you just call me. I can spend $6,000 if it's an
Well,
emergency thing, stuff like that.
that'll be his people. I'm not going to step on his toes. That's his purview. I just wanted to clarify how you want to be notified. If you want us to come here each time, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that and talk about, I'm gonna come to each meeting anyways. If we identify one, or if simple email to whoever or all of you, it doesn't matter to me. And I'm sure Mr. Piggott doesn't care either way.
All right, I think we got a good grip on that.
Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
In response to that $6,000, how much did you told Mr. Matt Brown when we first started that there was, how much did the individual commissioners have to spend?
I don't remember, I don't remember exactly.
I believe
Well,
you
we-
told him
I think it's
$400.
400, but I'm not sure.
So Elise, we have $14,000 in there now.
No.
That's just
that
what
was-
we're-
That was through fiscal year September 30th.
That's, yeah, last year's budget.
Okay.
I just want to verify that individual commissioners can spend up to $400? Is that per month, per year, per incident?
Per
or-
incident,
Okay, so if I need to buy a printer for the office, because we don't have a printer or anything in there, I can just buy it and submit the,
Well, you should go through.
Yeah, I was, actually, that was, I was.
well, if you, again, if you're giving me authority to spend the 400, the way you have the authority to spend the 6, the point is you don't ask the other commissioners.
No, you don't have to ask commissioners, but that's a simple thing, a printer.
I mean, is that something I would do? Okay, now what if I needed to get the records for the $138,000 we spent on fuel tanks instead of the kayak launch? If it's gonna cost me $60, I had to pay that out of my pocket to get those records from the city? Is that something I simply submit to the, for reimbursement under the $400?
No, it's for emergency, items, if something's knocked over or whatever. Stuff like-
Okay,
it's
so
not-
you're
not
saying
not
it's only for
supplies
emergency
and not
items?
for things like that, no, it's not for that.
Okay, can I get the copy of that resolution, please? Somebody send me that enables the $6,000 and the $400 of spending.
I'm sure we can find that somewhere.
Mr. Bedsole,
I'll look for it.
thank you.
All right. Government representatives, anybody else from the government?
Well, excuse me, Chairman, is there anything we need to decide on what was just presented to us, or we?
It's the same program, we just have to decide on the amount of money we're gonna put in the,
You're gonna budget it for, you had a certain
Okay.
amount of money that was left over when,
Right.
after the budget, that goes under,
unspecified marine
District
projects.
projects.
It's
so
not a
that
problem,
could be
yeah.
part of those.
When they come
funds.
up and they just tell us what they need, we always okay.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, it's not a problem there. We're always gonna take care of it.
Hello, Commissioners. Carl Blow, Florida Inland Navigation District, 100 Santa Monica Avenue. Excuse me. Just wanted to update you on the fine core project at Summer Haven, Matanzas Inlet area. I guess this is good news. Originally we had anticipated dredging about 316,000 cubic yards out of the intercoastal waterway and placing it on the beach there in Summer Haven. After Hurricane Dorian, an updated survey showed that there's more like 416,000 cubic yards. So the good news is it appears that there's federal dollars available for that additional material. So initially, Southwinds, the contractor, was going to do the project for just under say $5.9 million for the 315,000 cubic yards. So now we're looking at 416,000 cubic yards, and that contract should be probably around $7,765,000, which works out to be about $18.67 a cubic yard, which is pretty typical for a project that size in the intercoastal. Fines participation as far as funding in the project is dropped from about 50% to 38.2%, which is good. So other than that, that's what's happening down at Summer Haven. Southwinds is on site, and I don't know if they've actually started. I know I got some really fantastic photos from Josh that were taken, I guess, in helicopter, and obviously the county's down there working on the breach, and perhaps, I don't think Southwinds is pumping yet. But anyway, so far so good. The project seems to be going well, and as far as I know, everybody's happy. I think the Summer Haven people are pretty happy. I know Ms. Ginn's theory has always been that material that gets in the intercoastal comes from the breach, and you may be dead right, because basically between during this Hurricane Dorian event, we picked up 100,000 yards out of somewhere, and I guess it had to come from that new breach. So anyway, things are going well down there so far, and Southwind should be there, through the end of the year. Other than that, and I almost hesitate to say this because I'm not an expert at it, but your discussion about your employment of an engineer, and I'll defer to Mr. Bedsole on this, but I know in Florida, the engineers and architects and actually the land surveyors have legislation set up so that it seems to be a two-step process. Is you go out for solicitation, and you get the information from the different professionals, and you evaluate it, and you decide who is the best fit for your particular board. And at that time, cost doesn't enter into it at all. You basically select that firm that you think is best suited for your particular need. You usually have a number one choice and a number two choice, and really you might rank them. If you get 5 proposals, you'll rank all 5 of them. And then the number one choice, once you've selected that person or that firm, then you sit down and you negotiate rates, is my understanding.
Is that
So-
the engineering statute?
Yeah, it's a Florida statute, and
It's not the state bidding statute, is it?
no, it's the engineers and the architects and the land surveyors, they have a special deal, and if you talk to your folks down in the office, the reason I bring it up, I'm no expert on it, but I've been through with, Fine basically has to select engineers and land surveyors, and our process, that's the process, and like you guys, I've always been, hey, what's it gonna cost? And that's when I was educated to the fact that this statute exists for engineers and architects and land surveyors, is my understanding.
Well,
So
actually, Mr.
what it does, it kind of makes it a much, somewhat more involved process. It's really a two-step process. So
Does Find have an executive director?
we have an executive director.
And does that person do a little interviewing himself? He's probably got a pretty impressive resume, because we have a continuing contract with Mr. Crowder, and he also has a very impressive resume. And I would think someone with continuing contract, he would be an excellent person to be an in-between interviewer of
Yeah, all I caution you
engineers.
about is Find it collects $30 million a year in taxes, so.
So y'all do have somebody
12
that's,
counties, so we have the ability to have some staff.
so you have
Even
somebody
with
that
we-
interviews them for you, though?
Well, basically, what we also have 12 commissioners. So
Right.
a lot of times what we'll do is we'll select, actually it'll be people will volunteer, say 4 commissioners will volunteer to be on a panel.
Right.
And the executive director and staff will coordinate that. And then each of the commissioners will do a scoring. And then the executive director collects those numbers, and then that what establishes who we talk to first, basically. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I'm no expert in that, but it's definitely not a situation where you say, hey, how much are you going to charge me by the hour? And it doesn't work that way. And then, so anyway, I just thought I'd pass that on. But here again, I'm not an expert on it, and I defer to the experts. But
That is the typical process we go through.
yeah, and as far as Taylor, I can tell you, Taylor Engineering has been Find's engineer for 30-something years. And periodically, our board discusses, should we look for another engineer, or at least put it out there and do an evaluation. But generally what happens is because this dredging and coastal engineering thing is so specialized that there just aren't a lot of firms out there that are really qualified to do it. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, we do the annual renewals with Taylor, just like I think you guys have been discussing. And what Taylor does for our board, and you can probably maybe pull this information, is they will show us what basically DOT is paying for engineering services, and they'll break it down in all the different.
Sure, I'm sure any coastal engineer would do that for us, for sure.
But what Taylor, what we found is, and we just about do it every year, is we look at what other government entities are paying for engineering services, and compare it to what we're paying, and generally it's.
We have to also compare, did we get a complete project? See, if to complete the Summer Haven project, we now need more than $1 million. So we spent all the money, we didn't get what we paid for. So that's got to be part of how we
But the other
determine.
thing, with each task that Taylor does, they'll give us a proposal, and it will, detail exactly how many hours for each particular position in the firm they anticipate spending in order to complete this particular project, whatever it may be. And it's generally a not to exceed number. And on rare occasions, usually when we actually, typically it's when they're administering a construction contract, if we have a problem contractor, which we actually have one right now, that is way behind schedule and we're having issues with, they may have to come back to us if they get to the point where they've hit that not to exceed. But it's sometimes they don't ever exceed that. I mean, it's all based on the effort, the billable hours that.
I've never seen a contract where they didn't use every last dollar. I know technically the law says if you don't use it all, it's supposed to come back, but I've never seen a dollar come back.
Yeah. Anyway, I apologize, I shouldn't get in your business, but I just thought I'd relate to that process well, bottom line is I'm a contractor, and I admire the architects and the engineers and the land surveyors, because they got that through the legislature, that you can't just select them based on price. You have to go through that two-step process.
That's
and
a
only
good
after
thing.
you select your number one guy do you sit down and start talking about what it's going to cost. And,
That's a
and
good
if you
thing.
can't come to an agreement on the hourly rates or what have you, then you go to the number two selection. And that's the way it works.
Carl, you said that Taylor was the engineer for Fine for how long?
Oh, man, geez,
30 years?
Over 20 years?
something, yeah, I mean, a long time.
And
Close to 30, plus or minus.
1983, how far is that?
And Carl, you were on the Port and
30,
Waterway
60.
too at some point, weren't you?
Yes.
And how many years were you there? Or here, I mean.
I don't know, you remember, was it one term?
Yeah.
I think one
Yeah,
term.
because you were appointed, right?
No, I wasn't
You
appointed.
were elected on that?
Yeah, I got elected once. I'm not too
And
good at that.
I think you've been there many years.
Has Fine ever had any problems with Taylor Engineering over those years?
No. Actually, Bruce Taylor really did something that was, had a lot of vision. Because in the early 80s, let me back up. In the old days, when you dredged the Intercoastal Waterway, you went down the waterway, you pumped the spoil over to an island adjacent to the channel, or basically created these islands that you see as you go up and down the waterway. I mean, basically what you were doing is pumping the material on top of the marsh. Well, obviously, in the late 70s, early 80s, that was no longer cool. It was, it was damaging the environment. And so, fortunately, Bruce Taylor recognized that in order to maintain the Intercoastal Waterway, Fine would have to secure upland sites that were designed where you could pump this material, let it dry out, and then ultimately give it or sell it, get rid of it. So starting in the early 80s, under Bruce Taylor's direction and advice, Fine went up and down the east coast of Florida and purchased upland sites. And, I gave an example, SJ14 there and up there next to Davis Park is a site, an upland site that's engineered and designed to receive dredged material. And so it's allowed to dry out, and actually we end up either giving or selling that material. But if Bruce Taylor hadn't recognized that, we'd be in a bad way right now, because what's happened with the growth along the east coast of Florida, it's very hard to find a tract of land, 50 acres or whatever, that's close to the waterway that you could use.
That's really great. I just don't think, I'm glad Fine has not had a problem with Taylor Engineering, but this board has. We've had a problem with Summerhaven, we've had a problem with their mooring ball, we've had a problem with their building historic city wall that had to come down and be rebuilt.
Well, I got off on a tangent.
Okay,
I
I'm sorry.
apologize. I just wanted to say that the process of selecting an engineer, whoever that may be, is kind of, there's a unique statute in Florida, and bottom line is you can't do it on price initially. You have to do it on skills and what have you, and then you select somebody, then you negotiate.
Yeah, they're gonna have to
cost.
interview them anyway, though.
Yeah.
They'll have to interview them anyway.
And I
So-
appreciate that.
Thank you,
That-
Carl.
So it's
that,
gonna take you some time, so,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
All right.
For the insight.
Anybody else from the government?
I'll be quick. Sergeant Josh Underwood, Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. We have no maritime law enforcement issues to bring before the board this month. Last port meeting to this port meeting, we had 103 calls for service on the water, 21 wake zone patrols, 25 random MSD inspections with 3 violations where they were completely pumping into the ICW. Those 3 boats were cited, and then we had 1 navigational hazard removed from the waterway, which was a 4x4 floating piece of concrete dock that we towed to the city, and the city removed it for us. That's all I have for you guys, unless you have something for me.
Was it marker number 3 that was on the beach last time you were here with the
The
light on?
Coast Guard marker?
Yes.
Correct.
Is it still on, I mean, it's not back yet?
It's not on the beach, but it's not there
It's not
either. There's still a
reinstalled.
marker that's off of the South Shoal,
Okay.
and Coast Guard was notified.
Okay,
And it's
so-
on their daily.
But is that number
broadcast.
3 though, is that right? Number 3?
Number 3 was on the sand, correct?
Okay, and so but it's still off station as of now?
Correct.
Okay.
It hasn't been replaced, nor has the buoy, the green, that's on the South Shoal has not been moved back to the
Okay.
inlet.
I'm sorry, just because Sergeant Underwood is here, could I do the motion to cover the 2 hours of overtime for his office to do the helicopter photos for Summer Haven at low tide? Make a motion to pay for 2 hours of overtime for the sheriff's helicopter?
So Commissioner Flowers called and asked me about that. I got with Aviation. They said that they can do it on their video. They could just pull it out of our fund if that was something you guys wanted to do. It's just
Is that
2
for the
hours.
helicopter or somebody's time?
It's just for the pilot and the co-pilot,
How much is that?
2 hours per person.
Yeah. How
So
much is it?
overtime only, it's 180 total, $180.
And the free helicopter?
Will they be using the sheriff's office?
Sounds good to me.
And they would get us low tide pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
That-
He told me whatever you guys requested.
And thank you so
let
much
them
for
know.
those pictures you sent are spectacular of everywhere. And can I have permission to share those with the cruisers?
Yes,
around?
ma'am.
I was told, okay.
Yes, ma'am. And if you zoom in on those inlet photos, I tried to get them, you'll see the buoys that are off station.
Okay,
There's also
great.
a red that's off station. It's sitting in the center of the inlet.
Oh, what number is that? Do you know offhand?
I don't know off the
That's
top
okay,
of
I'll
my
find
head.
out. Red.
It's the 3rd one out though from the shoal.
Josh, is those 2 hours overtime, who are they gonna be paid to? Is it gonna be paid to the sheriff's department
It would be to that pilot and co-pilot.
personally?
No, it'd be like how we do it. We would bill you guys with the
Okay,
information.
all right.
They would still use like the same line item that we use, the LE&F port,
Uh-huh.
and they would still put in the comments what they did and
Okay,
all that.
okay.
And he just said they can use their FLIR video and make you a USB drive for the
Okay, great.
commissioners.
Second to the motion?
I'll second it. Second the motion. All right.
Should we vote? Yes?
All in favor?
Roll call vote.
All in favor?
Matt? Brown, Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Benjamin?
Yes.
Commissioner Rivers?
Yes.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
All right.
Anything else for me?
No, I just wanted to mention, I did try earlier on to get your government officials early in the agenda, but I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Youngblood, Underwood, I'm sorry. I don't know why I want to call you Mr. Youngblood all the time. Remember we talked about those little locks so that when you go, say, over to Rivers Bend Marine or wherever, wherever you go, that I was thinking, really, the city marina, when you go onto a mooring ball for like a month or more, should put them on as well. Was that a go on that? Should we try to order, would you be willing if we were to
Yeah,
purchase them?
If you guys want to
To
get some more
utilize 'em?
information on it, we're
Okay.
definitely, we have no
Yeah.
issue doing it. Because
Okay.
we do random MSD checks
So
now
if we just get you a
anyways.
big box of that could help you, and then if they've broken that, well, then you've got something, because I
Correct.
know, yeah, because it can
Because
be
right now,
time-
we just use they're like fluorescent dye tabs.
Right,
So you have them, you drop them in the MSD, you flush it, and then if if the handle's turned, it's gonna
Right.
flush correct right overboard. And that's what happened with the 3 boats in violation. We dropped tablets, they flush completely overboard, and it just turns into lime
Right.
fluorescent green color outside their
As long
boat.
as they don't see you coming or get the heads up, that works great. Do you
Right.
think those locks would be helpful to you, though?
Oh, definitely, we would be able
Okay.
to tell if they came in and we checked them and we secured it,
Okay.
that they
Gotcha.
opened it.
Would that require a change to like county law or city law to implement that though, or is that just a
No, because
procedural thing on your
right
end?
now, state statute says that they have to be secured by some type.
supposed to lock
Most
them
people lock
themselves,
them,
right?
a lot of people zip tie them.
Okay.
You can use a wire tie. It has to be secured by state law by some type. That would just be another
This would
method of
just be a little lock that you
securing.
know that you put, yeah, okay. I would look into that if the board agrees to bring some prices back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Okay.
Steve Zukowski, Patrol Supervisor / Lieutenant, Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, Coastal Flagler in St. Johns Counties. Just want to apologize, Commissioners, for not having a representative here last week. As you probably all remember, and that's why I'm dressed this way, I'm out on workers' comp, finally having my surgery on Monday, so I should be back. But in the interim, whoever the acting supervisor is for my squad, that person is supposed to be here to represent the squad. That did not happen last week, so that's been addressed. So I apologize for that. That's not going to happen in the future. Someone will be here, or I'll be here if we don't have an officer available for that day. So just want to apologize for not having a representative here last week. Boating and waterways. Let me just go back and touch on the DV process, since we're kind of talking about that and how it works from the state level. As someone who's worked around the state, Southwest Florida, Naples, Fort Myers, I've worked in the Keys, worked in Miami, and I've been Nassau, Duval, St. John's, Flagler, and Volusia. The way it works is there is a funding for derelict vessel removal that counties or municipalities can apply for through the state. Traditionally, though, if there's not a local mechanism and you're waiting for the state to remove the boats, what happens is in a lot of cases, traditionally, is the state will wait until they get 5, 6, 7 of them in a certain area before they send a contractor down to remove them. That's why it behooves a municipality or county to establish some sort of local program to remove them. Otherwise, you could be waiting 18 months, 2 years. And that's what's happened in the past in some of the counties where I've worked. In other counties down in Collier and Naples, in Lee County, Fort Myers, for example, they actually have or had a derelict vessel removal crew with their own small boat with a crane on it that they could remove boats 25 feet or less from. And these were basically county employees who did that because they had so many of them down there. So what we have here in St. Johns County is a pretty good system between the port and the management from the city and Mr. Piggott's help here. So it's always better if you can work on the issue of the problem locally first, because the state, if you're going to rely on the state to hire a contractor to do it, it's just going to take a long time, because they're not going to send a contractor down here for one boat for $5,700, $6,000. They're going to wait till a bunch of them pile up and then do it in one over like a 2 or 3 day, maybe a week period. That's how it's worked in the past. Any questions about that? Okay. Derelict vessels, we have a couple more in the queue. The officer who was my acting supervisor for about last 4 months, he has recently been promoted to lieutenant, and he'll be working in Marion County. So I'm kind of back in the mix a little bit with approving things. So I just noticed that we've got 2 new derelict vessels for me to approve to be removed. I'll have to look to see where they are. I just looked at my emails yesterday after not being on there for about 3 weeks. So I imagine that's going to become before you guys, and I'll have more information on that next month. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report on boating and waterways wise. Other than I did go over the Volano Bridge today on my way to a medical appointment up in Jack's Beach, and I noticed that we're missing under the Volano Bridge, one of the 500-foot boating waterway zone markers is already gone or down.
It's already notified.
Yeah, so how you've been working with people in Tallahassee. Thank you. Yeah, the county gets better response than I do from our people in Tallahassee, so I'm appreciative of Sergeant Underwood doing that. Fisheries. Not a whole lot going on. Up in Guana, now that the weather's getting cooler at night, I've had a couple of my officers go up there in the last week, and as usual, there's a group of people from Jackson will come down. Not a particular group, there's like just an enclave of people, and the Jax people violate more than the local people. And it was another redfish slam one night where there were probably 12 plus fish, redfish, oversized, over the bag limit or undersized up there. So the officers were up there, and that's something that's a chronic problem. It goes on and off, on and off, on and off. Usually when officers come up there and they, effect an arrest like that or give the people notice to appear and then we donate the fish, it tamps things down for a while. But the issue up there is we don't have patrols on a nightly basis. So it's kind of tough to do that. It comes and goes. But so we had another big redfish case up there at Lake Ponte Vedra or Guana Lake. Offshore, since the last month, we've had officers get involved in federal red snapper case out of season. They were checking some boats at local reefs, and I think one boat had 2 red snapper, and right now, as you all know, the federal red snapper season only comes for weekends now and then, 2 or 3 times a year. So we had a violation there. And just recently, we had a inshore charter boat captain who didn't have a state charter boat license was out there with people. So that's a civil penalty. So that person will have to pay and get his boat registered and can't operate between now and then. And I think the Coast Guard might have been notified of his captain's license, so I don't know if he's going to have a hearing in front of them with that violation. And that's all I have on fisheries. The last thing I have is just some general notes about personnel or upcoming events, stuff like that. We've got one officer in the squad, Mike Graves, who's primarily a flagler officer, works up here. He's going to be transferring up to the Panhandle. He's got family up there. And we'll have his replacement sometime early, mid next year. He's a good officer. He's primarily the flagler, intercoastal waterway officer. He's a, he's a fined manatee position down there, and he's done a very good job. He's also the hunting liaison for my squad because he has the most hunting experience of any of the officers on the coastal squad. So we're going to miss him. And got some good news. The squad is in the process. It should be here within the next month. We're going to be getting a 29-foot, a refurb 29-foot Donzi to assist with our 28-foot Boston Whaler Impact for offshore patrols. So now we can go out there with boats, instead of having just 25-foot, 24-foot boats, we'll have a 28-foot boat, 29-foot boat with all the electronics on it to assist when we do patrols offshore. We like to do patrols offshore, sort of like a tag team thing. The boats don't have to be right next to each other, but as anyone who's been offshore knows, when stuff goes bad out there, it goes real bad. And that's why it's nice to have other officers or public safety people, nearby, whether it's has to do with a mechanical issue, a boat fire, or just a law enforcement situation. So we should be seeing that boat, and we're glad to have it. So that's all I had. I don't have any amusing anecdotes today. Like I said, I've kind of been out of it, so hopefully I have something for next time. So that's all I have. Are there any questions or comments, consternations, ruminations, constipations, anything?
I'm glad that you're okay. Did somebody shoot you in the woods?
No. 10 months ago, we were doing defensive tactics training and came down. We were doing some knee spikes on dummies. Came down hard on my left leg, and my Achilles just ruptured. It's part of the wonderful chronological process of aging.
Better than being shot in the woods, though.
It is. Yes, it is. So it's just workers' comp is not one of the most efficient things to go through when you're trying to seek medical attention. But I'm glad it's finally happening. So I'm going to be in a lot of pain according to the doctor, and according to sort of scripts that I have for prescriptions. I'm going to realize that. But I should be back to work up and running again at the end of January. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right,
Good luck.
Thank you.
Any more government people?
Can I make a request?
Sure.
Could somebody in the back pull the shade down on those door? I keep getting flashes of light.
Oh, yeah,
bothering
that hadn't
you.
hit me, but.
That's just where I'm sitting. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. New business, contract renewal for attorney, James Bedsel.
Hey, I'm trying to find my contract.
Okay.
Do you have a copy?
I don't know.
Okay, I've got one. So, no, that's the other one. Okay, I've got it. This contract is essentially repeats all the terms that already exist in our contract. It's just updated.
What contract did you update, sir?
The contract I have with the board now.
Okay, can I see that? Because I've never seen a written
Well, I
contract.
provided copies to you and Mr.
No, sir, you
Slavin and
provided me a
everybody.
discussion that the board did. Did somebody else here get a written contract, a signed contract?
It was a proposal that was approved by the board and I provided minutes to. And I've
You
been-
provided me with minutes where you discussed hiring you as a lawyer. I've never seen a written contract to have you as our lawyer.
Letter proposal. So
Okay,
it's been.
where is the
It's been
letter?
working fine for 10 years, and just let me make my presentation, and then you can trash it. So the
Chairman.
the contract is in your,
Mr. Chairman, can I talk?
Go ahead.
Okay, I've read through the contract and think it's a good one, and I make a motion that we approve it.
Well, let the attorney
Yeah.
state his contract.
so the only thing different about this contract is that it raises the rate of pay, the hourly rate of pay to $200 per hour
Wow.
from $150.
Okay, can I ask you, sir, how much have you made off the board by fulfilling recent, especially from Mr. Slavin's, by fulfilling his public records request? Last time we heard it was over $4,000.
Mr. Slavin has provided about, I'd say, in the neighborhood of 100 public record requests, which some of them are very detailed and so forth, so we have spent a lot of time on that. But I have to explain to you that our regular office rate is $350 an hour.
I understand, sir, but my opinion is, and I've been in the office, and you admitted.
Can I finish?
No, sir. You answered my question. I'm moving on. You have admitted that our archives are a mess, that our office is a mess. I can't find anything in there. Are you getting ready to gavel me,
Not yet,
Barry?
in a minute.
I can't find anything in there.
Yeah.
And you're making money, huge amounts of money, off of. I'm sorry?
We're having a discussion here, sir.
Yeah, before the vote, I want to make sure you have it down like Florida law.
Sir, you're out of order, sir. You're out of order, okay?
You're making thousands of dollars off of having to go search through our records because our records are not in order. They are not digitized. Emails should be sent. Somebody wants an email, that shouldn't be a several-hour ordeal. It's click, click. But our records have not been digitized. They've not been modernized. They are not in any sort of order whatsoever. And you guys are making tons of money off of going through the records that you and our secretary were supposed to keep organized to begin with.
So it's not my job to.
It's certainly the
organize records.
secretary's job, and she leans on you, and if it's not your job, why are you talking about them?
I'm not part of my contract.
I think, we talked about an archivist.
But you're making lots, I know, you're our lawyer, you're the one that brought up we need an archivist, and nothing's been done on that, and yet we're making tons of money off of shuffling through records that should be organized.
All right, let our attorney make his
That way for
presentation.
85 years. So, that's not my fault. It is not my fault.
You're sure making lots of money off of it.
Not my fault that you have your friends make numerous requests.
No,
for
not my
records.
friend, sir. Same thing, 2 years ago when I came to this board. This is a different subject. I'm trying to focus on you. But you do make, again, you've made over thousands of dollars going through records trying to find, for example, your contract that was nothing but a bunch of discussions from the minutes of a meeting. That's what you sent me for your contract. And that's what you're making a bunch of money sorting through minutes to find when things like contracts, when they're asked for, they should go out just like that. And y'all couldn't present a single one of them.
Okay,
Single one of
As
what?
our counselor. I have a list, though.
well, let Mr. Bedsel
Okay.
finish up his proposal.
So you have the contract. It's for legal services. It's for $200 an hour. And everything else remains the same. I've been the attorney for 10 years. And this written version of the contract, I thought would resolve some problems with Commissioner Flowers. So I'm producing a written contract. The contract says that nobody's bound for any period of time to continue with this contractual relationship. I can terminate at any time. You guys can terminate at any time. So it doesn't really change anything about the way I go about business, except that it raises the hourly rate because we are tied up a lot of the time with these public records requests, and I have to set aside other work that needs to be done too. And when I started this, my bid was $150 an hour. It was lower than anybody else. It's 2/3 of my office rate at that time. $200 an hour is not 2/3 of my office rate. It's a lower rate. And you know, I think that a 33% increase in 10 years is not too much to ask.
I think I would agree with you. I think the $200 an hour is pretty reasonable for an attorney of your stature.
I move approval of the contract.
Oh, no, sir, we have to discuss it. We have to discuss this. You haven't given me a chance to discuss it.
Move, I have the right to do it, approval of the agreement between the Port, Waterway, and Beach District and James E. Bedsole Esquire.
You cannot do it without discussion by the
Private
board.
counseling services. Now, if we have a second, then there will be discussion.
Well, you know, I'd say let's open it up for discussion.
Yeah, let me just say something real quick.
You have a motion.
We don't have a second yet.
Sandy, did you say that you did not get a copy of this?
When I asked for his contract, all I received was a discussion from the port minutes.
No, I'm talking about this particular
Okay,
contract.
I did later receive, when he sent us a message that said, oh, by the way, a verbal contract's a bit slippery. It's, by the way, it's more than a bit
I
slippery.
didn't say that.
Yes, sir, you did. I've got an email with the copy that says it's a bit slippery, and you sent this. I'll be glad to bring that to the board. I will be forwarding that to you guys. So no, sir, a verbal contract is never good enough for the state, and I'd like to say again, why? Because if you can do that, it is acknowledged by the state of Florida in law, but it doesn't enact your insurance to protect these taxpayers. If you choose in your personal life to go around doing verbal contracts, that's okay. But they don't meet any of the minimum standards that the state requires.
So you're wrong about that.
Okay? No, but they didn't, because I read your discussion, and it didn't meet a lot of the minimum standards that have to be addressed in a state contract. When you don't renew them or reenact them every 2 years with the new board, it nullifies them, meaning you have no contract, just like you have none now. But I do, if we're going to continue to discuss, have a list of reasons why we shouldn't choose him as our lawyer.
Okay, I remember when we chose Mr. Bedsole, we had about 3 lawyers come here and they made a proposal. And it wasn't about the money, it was about their experience, and then afterwards it was about the money.
Does he have any government experience? You didn't talk about that when you gave your...
Anyway.
Well, can we hear it?
Can I finish? Just a minute, okay? And we interviewed about, it was 3 or maybe 4 other attorneys, and we chose Bedsole out of all these other guys. And they came here, made proposals, told us their experience, what their whole thing, what it was about, and that's why we chose him.
Okay, I did not see that in the minutes. None of the other lawyers were there.
It was
I'm
definitely
talking
there.
to,
Yep.
none of the other lawyers were mentioned in the minutes. You just provided minutes for me as a proof of contract,
Yeah, you
which
want
is
a
not
proof of
true.
the contract.
What other government before this, because you've done, it, in my opinion, a terrible job. You have not protected this port, you've not protected the Summer Haven. By the way, this port voted unanimously to sue Summer Haven's insurance. Have you done one thing on that?
Yes.
Okay, what is it? And would you tell us? Because you don't send us any information. What have you done? It should have been filed by now.
There are about half a dozen insurance policies, and we've been going through the policies. Some of the policies we were not provided, and I've asked for more policies.
You mean after all of the asking that we did for the Sunshine Law to be honored, you didn't get all the insurance policies?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
You don't have all the insurance policies for our contractors and our subcontractors?
No, they did not provide them.
Well, then there's the problem. You did not protect this board and these taxpayers on many occasions. I've got 2 pages of it.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion that we bid out for a new lawyer, but before I do, what other government experience do you have beside this board?
Well, I have represented the county of St. Johns County,
Doing what?
litigation.
Okay, do you ever work for St. Johns County or just a hired lawyer? What were you litigating? Because this is a little different when you have to keep everybody legal, all the voting legal, all the records legal. And just like our public records, as our counsel, you should be involved in going in there and saying, hey, none of this is legal. When I went to Miss Kemper and said, I'd like to see the records, and she said she wouldn't talk to me, I couldn't see the record, you should be involved in that. When I sent emails and said, where are the records even kept? And I was given an answer that they are somewhere. The answer can never be somewhere, and you were part of that email, I've got your name on it.
Mr. Chairman,
I
I
would
again
very
make a
much like to
motion
read my
to
list.
approve the
No, I'm not finished
agreement
talking,
between
sir, and
Jim
I'd like to read the
Bedsole
list that I've said
and
I've had
private
on reasons
counsel.
that we should not rehire him.
Make the motion. I can make a motion anytime.
You have to let me read my list.
No, I don't.
The chairman does.
I can make a motion anytime.
Well, you
If
just
it's a
interrupted
second-
me, and you don't like me to
if it's a
interrupt
second,
you.
Then we have
Sir,
discussion.
you're trying to stop me from giving accurate
Well, I wish
data.
I could.
Wait a minute, guys,
Is there a second to the motion?
Nobody wants to know about the other reasons why he's not even
We
a
have a
lawyer.
second to the motion that's on the floor.
Let's hear the public comment.
What's the motion? What was the motion?
Have motion second and then comment.
All right.
Well, sir, should have just a minute, we're not ready for public
I'm
comment
sorry, I
yet.
heard him, I
He
mistakenly
doesn't-
heard him
he-
say
he-
we're gonna have
he-
public comment.
Yes, right. Okay. Sandy, go ahead and finish.
Okay. Again, the lawyer that our board is trying to reenact has never, ever had, his original contract was not valid per state minimum requirements. You can look that up yourself through the Special District Handbook or the Special District Accountability Act, and they will give you all kinds of pointers. You have never been reviewed or reenacted every 2 years as you were supposed to, which there was nothing to review. There's nothing to reenact. You reenact. You literally have no obligation. You can come and say what you want. We don't have any right to rely on your insurance because you've never signed a contract with us. You incorrectly advised these commissioners right here that it was okay for them to deny their charter and not get personally bonded, and yeah, I have checked with it in the state. They're coming for us, okay? It's just a matter of time. That's a really bad one there, because now you leave these men, especially since you have no insurance to offer us because you're not legally, they can't even come back to you for your bad advice. You issued a public statement criticizing my remarks about the $92,000. That's gone. I said FEMA wanted it back. You was a public statement. Who asked you to issue that statement? Was it the board? No. Whose lawyer issues a statement saying that a commissioner is wrong in her opinion? I've never even heard of such a thing. I mean, nobody asked you. It must have been, I don't know who called you and said you needed to get involved in that because I was right and you were wrong, and now that's been played out. No, I'm talking. Don't start. Don't start. I'm talking. We have yet to see any work 3 to 4 months down on filing this insurance against Turnbull, and there's something wrong. I don't know why you're dragging your feet, but I believe it's just like that FEMA thing with Taylor. You're dragging your feet, so eventually we run out of time limit or something. Oh, all of a sudden, I can't do anything. I'm past the date. This is too long. No lawyer in the world will wait this long to file a suit against that while the river fills up with sand. You approved an expenditure to Turnbull for $87,000. You told her to write the check, and you listened to that fella down there saying the dredging was all okay without ever having this board approve it, and we have to approve it. It was not approved in the last board. Send me the paperwork. Was not. If it's approved as, let me give you one more example. When we approved the $92,000 for Summerhaven, they needed to have the $18,000 released. It still had to come back to this board. Everything, whether it was approved as a part of a project, has got to be approved when it's expenditure based on us being happy, not the engineer. The engineer had to convince us that we were happy, and you paid $87,000 under contest, and this is my turn to talk. That's all.
Okay.
Can I make my motion now?
You have your
Oh,
motion.
if you want to respond, I think.
Jim, any response?
Me? Yeah. Well, it's hard to point out all the fallacies, the innuendos, and the other junk that Commissioner Flowers loves to speak. I wrote a letter regarding slander. Your actionable slander that you commit sitting in that chair,
I'd like to see that letter.
talking. And there are people in the audience and people I have spoken to who have reserved the right to sue the board.
I hope they do.
And each and every one of you, just because of comments like you just made.
No, sir, I hope you do. If you would sue me, that's the fastest way we could get this whole debacle in front of a judge. Please sue me, fast.
Just a minute, you cannot say that,
So you
okay?
somebody else to take care of that.
Yeah.
This will get it all in front of the judge, and he could see what's going on over here.
Commissioner
So I wrote a
Flowers?
letter that was all true, directed to the board, warning everybody that saying things that you did, that were not verified, making slanderous statements about people in the public, about contractors, was all actionable slander. And
You
should not
think
be
so?
done.
I disagree.
Should
And
not
you're
be
the
done.
worst lawyer I have ever seen in my life.
Should not be done out of common.
And you should not be sitting in that chair so much as advising us anything, Mr. No Contract for 9 years. Really, some law enforcement should arrest you right now. You have no legal right to sit in that chair. You do not have a contract with this board.
Mr. Chairman, I have something to say about that. I, too, was on this board whenever we interviewed probably 5 different attorneys and attorney firms. I was on this board when the board voted to hire.
Did you vote
Jim
the last
Benson.
every 2 years, Tom? Because it
I-
only
no,
lasts
no.
for 2 years.
I'm sorry.
Hey, let's keep it a little more civilized, okay?
No,
No more
he was legally voted in. He has served us well.
Yes.
And I.
He has to have a legal contract for the state
I
to
would like
acknowledge
I'd
him.
like to make a motion.
Call up the
third
state.
time that we approve the agreement between Jim Bensall and the Port Board.
I second the motion. Call for a vote.
Public comment, please, like the law states, Florida law states. You have
Public
to open
comment.
it up for public comment
Public-
before the vote.
Don't think that's necessary.
Before the vote, public comment.
He-
That's the law.
Sir, you're out of order.
That's the law. So you're under law.
You're-
You're under investigation right now by the state.
You're out of
You're
order.
under investigation for lying.
By the way, the chairman does not, the chairman lives on a boat is what he tells everybody. He does not even a resident of this district. He says he lives on a boat at Rivers Bend Marina.
You're out of order.
Have the
Sir,
police
can you escort these two gentlemen out?
Huh?
He's out of order, and he's out of order.
You're under criminal investigation right
No,
now.
I'm afraid
Yes,
you're
you
wrong,
are.
sir. I'm
No,
afraid
you,
you're
yeah,
wrong.
you are.
Yeah.
We're not being
We're-
violent or
The
threatened.
law
We have a
states
right
that
to
we're
speak.
entitled
Yeah.
to public comment before the vote.
No.
Mr. Sheriff, this chairman does not even live in this district. He told us he lives on his boat at Rivers Bend. He doesn't live on a boat, and I can tell you, I've lived on a boat, and it does not make you a resident. In no way, no how, are you a resident. And you don't live on the boat.
Right, as long as you think that.
Public
Okay.
comment.
Sir, you're out of order.
I'll vote you out next time you run for that. How's
You're
that?
breaking the law.
Last that long, sir. He will not be here that long.
Public comment
That's your right.
before
Have
the
you removed from
vote.
office. How do you like that?
You don't have to leave, sir.
Huh?
You have to leave.
No, I'm not being.
Yes.
Hey, this is my room, this is my
You
seat,
do not,
I live here.
you
have
can,
a right
you
to
cannot-
break
you
the
cannot
law.
yell.
I hereby place you under arrest.
Sir.
877.03.
Can you remove this gentleman, please? He's
No,
disrupting the
remove the
meeting.
chairman, sir, because he has no right to be at the board.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Law enforcement officer,
Yes,
Mr. Police.
David Shore's nephew is throwing me
Mr.
out.
Police.
David Shore's nephew has committed a felony against me.
Let this
Is
man-
throwing me out of the
Chairman Widgew, he has no authority to serve on this board. If I hadn't been fighting this for almost a year now, I wouldn't be so mad, but I'm tired of y'all being so illegal and corrupt.
Call the vote.
Okay, so now we have that, 2 motions.
I'd like to make a public comment
Sir, your comment will be after the old business.
after you make the vote on this.
Yes, okay.
I think we had public
Senate
comment
Bill 50
already.
says I have a right to speak on everything you vote on.
It does, he has a right to speak on it.
I'm recording this.
Right.
Senate Bill 50
Is that
says
correct?
I have a right to speak.
Can he speak before?
Senate Bill 50,
No.
sir.
No?
Let's stick
No.
with the agenda. I'm
That's
not-
bad
Right.
advice. Senate
Sir.
Bill 50 says I was.
All right. Sir?
I can't believe you can take this.
I'm just putting it on the record, sir, and I will be
Okay.
quiet in a moment.
Okay.
I just want to speak. Senate Bill 50 says I, as a citizen, have a right to address my government that I elected, and I have a right to speak. If you say no, just say no, so I have it on the record.
You have a right to speak, but that's right after the
Before you
other.
vote. No, before you
No,
vote.
sir, it's right after the other
All right,
agenda.
thank you. Now I
Okay.
have it on the record.
All right.
for a complaint with the state.
That's fine. Okay. So now we have a motion, first and second, to accept the contract from Mr. Bedsel. I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benjamin,
Yes.
Commissioner Way,
I'd like to, if I could, if this gentleman wants to give his piece concerning the attorney, I don't see the harm in it. But if,
We gotta
that's
vote
just
on
my.
that. You have to vote on this.
Yeah,
and we-
okay. Well, I have no reason to believe Mr. Bedsole has been a bad representative. I've heard a lot of people say that he's doing things illegal, and I'm gonna rely on our attorney until that has been proven differently. So I'll vote yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Rivers,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner,
No, 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 and no.
That equals one.
Only one of the noes
Yes,
counts.
okay. All right.
Okay, move
Now
on.
we're to old business. Regatta
Just to
lights.
make sure you know, Mr. Bedslow, it doesn't exonerate you from your
Bedslow.
crimes you did when you did not have a contract with this port, nor any of y'all.
All right. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Dan Florian, St. Augustine Yacht Club, 442 Ocean Vista Avenue, and I have with me Barbara Dolan, who's the current Commodore of the St. Augustine Yacht Club, same address. We sent you, over the last week or so, a copy of the application for the funding of the Regatta of Lights, and also a copy of the budget, which you requested. The budget is the same budget that we are using with the TDC grant. It's in the contract that we'll be signing with the TDC for their portion that they provide. The normal process that we go through would have given us probably about $7,500 of TDC monies this year, but they got more demand than they had money, so they cut everybody back by about 50%. So we only are getting about $3,500 from them. And as I think I mentioned last time, it takes about 10,000 or so, 10 to 12,000 to run this thing. So we're requesting 7,000 from you. We also have 500 coming from Find, which would give us enough to do the event this year. Which we received. Which we have already received, Barbara says.
What is the amount that the boats get for the winning trophy boat, whoever?
They don't get any financial
There's
compensation.
not a prize or
No,
anything?
they get a trophy,
Right.
and they get a dinner.
Well, the only problem I had, and I love the boat parade, and I've enjoyed it every year, and I gave you guys a copy of the Attorney General's opinion, and if I could see that.
There you go, I got you.
Just read it, and I'm trying to figure out a way that we can legally, we don't do a lot of things illegal here, and it's not just my opinion. I was trying to figure out how we could take care of you guys legally. But let me read this for you. In the Attorney General Opinion 2007-24, this office recognized the authority of the County Water Authority to foster and improve tourist business in the county, but noted that the exercise of this authority had to be accomplished through improvements to streams, lakes, canals, the same kind of things we do, through our improvements. So we had to reach out and do our promotion for the port through what we're authorized to improve. For example, thus the expenditure of authority funds to host a fishing tournament even, or sponsor a soccer league, which would be similar like we're doing, we're sponsoring some type of thing, did not appear to be related to the authority's duties, and this office, meaning the Attorney General, concluded that it was not authorized to enable the legislation of this district and to authorize that expenditure. It's just something to think about. There are other ways that we can do things, especially through advertising. Is any of that budget, I didn't get to see it, I'm sorry, it's lost in my emails. And like they said, Mr. Slavin does send about 2 of them a day, so. Is anything in that budget, could we cover through advertising, for example?
What do you mean?
Do a direct expense for the port, instead of giving a grant,
I understand your
for
question
you see
now.
what, to try to be able to stay legal with the AG.
Well, we're required for the portion that we get from the TDC to spend 50% of that money on out-of-county advertising. That's their criteria. So yes, there's a fair amount of advertising money in there for that purpose. We really
But some of the money you have right now is already earmarked, you have to spend it on that.
the money that we're getting in from the TDC. We don't get the money until after we actually run the event.
Okay.
But, yes, we have to spend it in that way. So there are some limitations on what we can spend the TDC money on. We don't have those same limitations on the find money or your money.
Right.
Find provides funding for several of these events up and down the coast. $500 each, I believe, is their standard.
And is the yacht club private or public?
Well, it's a private club.
It's a private
We're doing
club.
this because the city requested us to do it about 15 years ago, so
So
it's a
the,
public event. It's not,
the private club sponsors a public event, pretty much is how
we're
it's
hosting
working.
the event, yes. It's up to us to get the money to fund it, and it's up to us to run the event.
And, Yacht Club a 501c3?
No, it's a 501c7.
501c7?
We have a 501c3 foundation, but we are a 501c7.
And I'd like to also add that after we applied for the TDC grant for the Parade of Lights, and at this time, we did not have all of our information together, but we have requests from all the children who are involved in our youth program to try and incorporate a regatta of lights for them as well. Of course, we all know that we can't have them in those little boats down on the bayfront, but we are in the process of planning something between the Concourse and the Yacht Club to include 40-some children in that parade as well. And there's just, in the $3,500, there's just not enough funding for that. There really isn't. So we are, in addition to adding that to the TDC grant, but we did not have all that information at the time, so it wasn't included.
What falls under miscellaneous? Just a few examples under miscellaneous for 2,300? What would that be? Just a few examples.
Well, we have to get lights to put on the buoys down there so we can get the boats in the proper
Okay.
place.
Staging stuff?
We have, yes. We have, some of the buoys need special frames put in to hold the lights, so we have to do that. We have I'm not sure where it is in the budget, but we have to rent the sound equipment down there. We have tents that we rent. I think those are identified in separate areas. but
Okay, I see
There's a lot of
that,
little pieces that come together under miscellaneous.
Do the police department or sheriff's department,
That's under miscellaneous, yeah, we have to
and-
pay for them as well.
and what is that line item, Sandy? Do you have that?
It's
I'm
not-
sorry, say again.
The
not a
police,
separate
you know,
line.
security or whatever.
Miscellaneous total is $2,300.
And
And it's
it's
not
in there.
differentiated beyond that.
But that police bill, if I remember correctly, it's about 4 or 5 officers, 3 hours each, $30 an hour, something like that, plus one lieutenant.
And, I'm sorry, can you repeat what you guys are looking for from us?
$7,000, please.
Is there any reason to suspect that TDC is going to be back to their normal funding level next year, or is $7,000 just going to be the new ask
Well,
from
this
here
is
on
an
out?
unusual thing for them. Yes, you can never tell, but, and we've been given the advice by them that next year we should apply in a different category, because they only cut everybody in half in the category that we applied in. There are other categories which we could sort of fit in as well.
I was on the TDC for a little while, and it seemed to be their syllabus, I should say, is to jumpstart people and get them going, but not be the source of funding indefinitely. I just remember that was a big case. It was like, how many times is the, I don't know, Greek festival going to come for us for money? They're trying,
Yeah.
my understanding was they're trying to jumpstart. So I would think the chances of you getting more money are probably nil for the
Well, we've been
TDC.
getting money for just about 15 years every year. It just varies every year in the event.
Yeah,
But this particular event and some of the others in town, there is no revenue source. I mean, we don't charge anything for the people who participate. We don't charge for the people who watch the parade. So it's all done by grant money and donations.
Well, I think it's a great event that brings thousands of people to the bayfront. It promotes the waterway in St. Augustine, and I know last year I was a judge with along with some
I'd
city
like to-
commissioners and so forth, and it's a very good experience. And I just move approval of the funds, $7,000.
I'd like to add one more thing here. We're playing with fire just a little bit when we do these grants. And if we grant money, And I see you shaking your head because we're playing with fire. But I would like to read this because technically, we cannot spend our money on this unless it's, because we can't do it technically. However, I would like to read this too. Research reveals that the terms of this statute has not been litigated, and no staff analysis or other illustrative legislative history is available relating to the enactment and legislative purpose of this, meaning that nobody's ever taken this to court. The AG's telling we can't even sponsor a fishing tournament, and that blows my mind. That is direct promotion of the port. So I'm a little concerned. So if we do it, I would suggest that maybe by next year, we try to separate these totals and bring like as much as we can pay direct, advertising, publicity, and everything, and dump those on us. And it would exonerate us a little bit from wandering into territory that we're very, this is the Attorney General has said we can't even sponsor a fishing tournament. And this was from our port. It was back when we were talking about building ships to send them to Spain. This was all reported back in that one letter from the AG. So she's telling us we can't even sponsor things that I would think we could, like fishing tournaments. And I love this thing. I want to sponsor it. But I'm thinking maybe next year we should try to do it in such a way that it gives us the totals for things that are very easy for us. Advertising, it's flat out there. We can buy that if it promotes this port.
The yacht club does, promote the port group, and we're on their advertising. I know on the bayfront, when you are announcing the different boats and so forth, you do periodically mention that we're co-sponsored with the St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach Commission. Right. So I think by doing this, we are promoting safety on the waterway, especially if you're going to involve children this year.
That's a little reach that we're promoting safety. That's a really big reach. Like I said, we can do the advertising, but one thing we can't do is if we're members of the yacht club, we can't vote to give the yacht club money if we're members.
Could I add something? 10 years ago, when that AG opinion came out, we had the advertising consultant value the advertising services that they offered. And he valued their services in advertising alone at something like $5,500 for the event.
Well, that's what I said. Maybe next year we can simply read. I know you guys are under a time drop. It's time for the thing this year. But next year, if we could simply itemize it a slightly different way, the port could take over probably just as much of the burden off of you, but in a slightly different way if we could be responsible for publication advertising.
With the invoices, because I know I had to show you, Barry, the invoices, the backup to the money that we gave to
Yeah, we give you line item
for
detail.
advertising.
Well, I'll be a maverick and I'll take my chances again.
But Sandy, did you want to second the motion?
I will second the motion to go ahead and approve it for this year.
All right, so we have a motion.
I'm a little worried, but, we'll all go in there together.
All right,
Who made the motion?
Tom made motion 1, Sandy's number 2.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain, and the other two guys.
Commissioner Way?
Yeah, I'm going out on a limb again.
Commissioner
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Yes.
Flowers, yes.
So,
You second.
yeah, so you got it.
Yes.
Tom and
Sandy.
Chris.
And Chris, yeah.
Right. But again, with the qualification that I think it's very much a reach. It hasn't been litigated yet, and because of that, if we could just do it a little differently next year, we won't have to go out on a limb like Mr. Wade was talking about.
And then this year, you'll still submit receipts,
we submitted
and then
invoice
we
with a
can
list of all the-
take a
all
look
the
at them
invoices.
from there.
Of what we paid, what the port paid.
What the port pays, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners.
So now we have public comment. So whoever wants to come up
It's your time.
for public comment, please do.
It's 0.
Ed Slavin, box 3084, cleanupcityofstaugustine.blogspot.com.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you for voting to vote. I thank you for your vote to do advertising for the engineer after 29 years, 30 years. It takes a village, and I think you're fixing to maybe pass the 7th-generation test. At your future meetings, though, you need to be courteous to people and let us speak and stop violating 286.114. You also need to adopt the Gary Snodgrass rule. Here at St. Augustine Beach, when Gary Snodgrass was the mayor, he made sure that when people asked questions, they got answers, and that's not too much to ask. I'm sorry, you're talking, I'm talking, would you please gavel them? That's so discourteous. Now, Tony Kushner, in his play Angels in America, said that sometimes you only get through politics miracles, and it was a miracle that y'all just did that today on Taylor Engineering. I don't think anybody anticipated that, but I did. Just like Leanna Freeman said that it was a miracle that we got Fish Island. Y'all work for us, and you need to remember that. Now, there's a schedule conflict I'd like y'all to address before you adjourn. Every single one of your meetings conflicts with the St. Johns County Board of County Commissioners. Would you please reschedule it to another Tuesday and not conflict with the county commission meeting? Also, could you please televise these meetings? Also, would you please invite Dr. Michael Shirley and Dr. Olabarrieta from the University of Florida to present? They're willing to. I sent you the information about Summer Haven and the science. We need good science. We need quality assurance. We need peer review. Summer Haven, waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think in terms of the attorney contract and the auditor contract, I do believe that you violated the restatement of contracts, section 178, contract violations of public policies. I do not believe that it is a bona fide occupational qualification to have a local auditor. And even though I disagree with Todd David Neville on stuff, I think you ought to consider his application. You ought to not say the auditor has to be from St. Augustine. That is not a valid reason to not even consider people. You need somebody from out of town to come in here and look at this. You need an audit committee like we have in the city of St. Augustine. There's a committee consisting of Mr. Neville, I think, and two other people from the city, and they review the audits. Also, as Ronald Reagan once said, politicians, and I would say auditors, need frequent changing, just like diapers, and for the same reason. Now, the standard of care, as Gary Snodgrass agreed with me and the St. Augustine Beach Commission agreed, is you change auditors every 3 to 5 years. You don't keep the same one for 20 years. Now, the city of St. Augustine's had the same dadgum auditor for 30 years, and we know why. But St. Augustine Beach, they changed their auditor. St. Johns County, they changed their auditor. So let's up your, let's do what's right for the people. Now, Minimum Jim here, you just renewed his contract. Now, that was a sin, a crime, and a tort, and I wish that you would revisit that. I'm sorry, the attorney is talking to the Secretary of Treasurer while I'm talking. That is so discourteous. Could we please have him stop? Now, first of all, why is he writing the minutes for $350 an hour? Now, he denied on the record when I said he was writing the minutes. Now his contract calls for him to write the minutes, and his billing statements over the years show that he writes the minutes. Why is he writing the minutes? And why did he represent Chairman Benjamin before the Florida Ethics Commission in response to that ethics complaint in 2013? Now, that's a conflict of interest. That's unethical. I would think that somebody's going to want to file a complaint with the Florida Bar about that, and I'm thinking you definitely need a new attorney because he wouldn't say who his clients were. Mr. Benjamin, you're one of his clients. He represented you, and that 1-inch thick notebook that you gave to him, he gave to the Ethics Commission, he gave to whoever else. You're not a valid, Mr. Chairman, you are not a valid resident of 65 Lewis Boulevard. That is commercial property. That is illegal. That is a crime. That is a tort. And let me just quote Ronald Reagan again. I paid for this microphone. Our right to speak in public meetings is inviolate. You violated it today, sir, repeatedly. And under 286.114, the people that spoke and wanted to speak, you should have heard them. Commissioner Way was absolutely right, wanting to hear them. Don't do that again. Now, at the beginning of this meeting, you actually said to me, don't speak to me. That's really, really rude. So, quoting John Randolph of Roanoke, this Port and Waterway Commission is kindly like a rotten mackerel by moonlight. It both shines and stinks. Y'all can do a lot better job, and I know, Mr. Benjamin, you're going to say to me shortly, time's up. I'm saying that to you, sir. Time's up. You need to resign. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else from the public? Sure, come on.
Dan Florian, St. Augustine Yacht Club. One other thing I forgot to ask you. I need one of you to be the judge again this year, so if you'd like to designate Mr. Chairman, one of your team.
Any volunteers? Who would like to be the judge?
I would nominate you.
Well, Tom did it last year, and Barry did it the year
I
before.
did the year before.
I'll nominate Mr. Brown because he's new. Give him something different to do.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I'll do it, but I'm the jerk that voted against your funding, so I'm not sure you want me
Still,
to do it.
you're going to have to still pick the best and prettiest boat.
All right, I'd be happy to do it.
I would have done it, but I live right on the bayfront, and I usually have a little get-together because your boats come right by my house.
Oh, okay.
And I have a hard time staying up
If
after
I can do it
dark.
from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Sure. I'll be in touch after to get contact info.
All right. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Comments by commissioners. Commissioner Way?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to recommend is I talked about that earlier. I know it seems when the police department, sheriff's department all come here, they've got to sit through almost the whole meeting before they do theirs. And I would just like to ask the chairman if maybe on the next agenda, we get them first crack at us.
Can we do that on the,
I thought we already decided to do that before.
well, we did, but this
Okay.
agenda is the approved agenda by agenda people. So.
Anyway, it's just a
yeah.
thought.
It's fine with me. I mean, you know,
Anybody in law enforcement want to raise their hand in favor?
you guys stay for the whole meeting anyway, you know, so.
Yeah, but I just think if they go first, then you guys can decide whether you
Yeah.
want to hang around.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem changing it. What do you think?
What do you want to do again now?
Just let them come up, first,
Put government representatives like
you know, after approval of the-
Do
minutes.
that, they're right after second.
No, they're like number 10.
Oh, when, no.
Kind of morphed since we tried to change it, I think.
anyway, that's all I have.
Just,
Okay, you want to move them back up to
Yep.
adoption and approval of agenda? You want to move them at?
Yeah, and then right
after
before
number
public comment.
yeah, like number
5?
I make a motion to
well,
do that.
Yeah, 5.
Okay, which one, so you want them at number 5 and move it
Yep.
down, public comment
And everything
will
else.
go to 6?
Yeah, everything else just comes down one. Okay.
Right, so number 5 will be government.
Yep. Yep.
That's why I get to catch all the snapper I want.
Sure. Okay, Tom, you have any comments?
Yeah, my comment is that this meeting today was embarrassing.
Yes, we had a lot of people walk out of the meeting, if you
Saying
noticed.
that,
Yes.
we as a board, as every single member should learn to keep down the name calling, and calling people out and shouting. And we had some disturbances. I think the only good thing that really happened was having that man removed.
Yes.
Others should have also been removed from this meeting. But it's my hope that we will become more civilized in the future and more professional as well. And let me say one other thing. Mr. Slavin has been costing us thousands of dollars. And I, for one, am tired of getting the emails, we must have gotten hundreds of emails from him. And if they have to be answered, it's costing us money every single time. So if I would ask Mr. Slavin if he would kind of cut back on the emails demanding information. That's just a request.
And then I have a kind of like a disturbing thing at 7:42 at night on Thursday, October 2nd, a text from Mr. Slavin. Where's your house? I mean, it doesn't matter where my house is. It's none of your business.
Well, it does for this board.
My house,
You have to
listen,
be,
I live on a boat.
you can't, no,
part-time.
first of all, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Not part-time.
Yes, I do.
You
Yes,
don't
I
live
do.
there at all.
Yes, I do.
And even if you
that's
did.
not for discussion right
It
now.
is.
It's not for discussion
It is,
with you right
Barry.
now. It's
We've
not.
talked to the supervisor elections, and you are not a resident of this district. And even when you lived in a house, it was outside this district.
Yes,
So what are
and
you going to, no,
I
I'm
have no
serious.
homestead.
I want to know, I'm not talking about homestead, I'm talking about where do you reside? I want to know what
I'm
you're going
Lewis
to do.
Boulevard.
You saying you live on a boat at River's End. Guess what?
Yep.
I lifted on a boat, and you can't even get a driver's license with that address. So I don't know who did you some special favor, but it's going to come up.
Well, I'm afraid
Boy,
my...
Pig'll be the first
All right,
one to
just-
tell you, you are
comment,
not a
comment.
resident of this district if you are telling us you
Okay,
live on a boat.
I'm still not finished.
And wait, by the way, Rivers Bend says you don't live there either.
Okay, right. I have a lease. But nevertheless.
That's not a lease. Try it out with the city marina. They'll tell you that contract is not a lease.
Nevertheless, we're not arguing with you, okay? I just want to state that what most of Mr. Slavin says, and everything that Sandy says, are snippets of facts, but most of them are not completely factual.
I know, like the contract
You may
or not.
say, my name is Barry Benjamin, factual. The rest is probably not. That's my comments for commissioners today. Next is you, Matt.
No comments.
Okay, Sandy?
I wish you would, Matt. I wish you would, you've got some legal training to chime in on this, but anyways, we're working with the state on that, and they'll be coming for you soon.
Okay.
I would like to say that, I know that you and Mr. Rivers definitely think y'all got some long political arms, and I do see them, but don't worry. I did attend, nobody else on the commission did, but I did attend the South Atlantic Coast Study by the Army Corps of Engineers for sea level rise, and I'm just going to leave that here in case somebody's actually interested in what's going on in our district. You can throw it away or whatever, but it was a wonderful meeting. And on this, there's tons of tools. If you follow this, this little website, all kinds of tools that you can push buttons for sea level rise. They've spent a lot of our tax dollars on it. And one more thing I'd like to comment about is this Friday. I was hoping, I had sent that to you guys, and I was hoping that you could all attend the Army Corps meeting, but you cannot do that because our secretary didn't publish it soon enough. So, if you said, hey, there's something I need to publish, you could have published it that day, and we would have been okay.
Oh, it has to be in the newspaper. I can't publish it the same day. It has to be
You
in the
could have
newspaper.
published it on the website.
No, it has to be in the newspaper.
Well, you could have
To
put
be
it in the
public.
newspaper
It
then
has
for
to be
Saturday.
in the newspaper.
Couldn't put, you know what, Annalise, you have literally held a public meeting that wasn't even
You
advertised.
didn't tell me it was a public.
Listen, I'm not talking about that. My point is you've broken so many laws. But boy, you didn't want to break this one so they could attend an Army Corps. You didn't, an emergency meeting, as I told you, I considered this, considering what's going on in Summer Haven.
What's
You could have
emergency?
done it for that. I'm not finished with my comment.
Okay.
But boy, you are ready to follow that rule. You've literally had public meetings here without even putting them on the website till the day before, and that is required by, let me finish. You don't mind doing that. It doesn't matter that they were in the newspaper. It matters. The law says they must also be on the website. You've had it the right date and the wrong day of the week. But boy, you don't have a problem doing that. But you have a real problem getting it so that our commissioners can you just don't follow up on our work. And when I complain about the bad work you do, again, no problem. But boy, when I want these fellows to be able to sit at a Corps meeting, that can't happen. You could not do a thing.
All you said to me was find a room. That's all you said.
It's your job as a secretary to say, wait a minute, as a secretary, I've got to do this a week ahead of time. So I would have expected our secretary treasurer to say, there are legalities, that's why we hire somebody, so that y'all could attend the meeting. So when I sent that out, if she'd said then, oh, by the way, we've got to put this on right now, or I could have called the Corps back, but I got nothing till Monday. All I got was, we can't come.
I didn't
So
get the email till Monday.
again, I'm not trying to argue, I'm saying how it happened. So I'm meeting with the Army Corps all by myself and hopefully some friends of Summer Haven on this Friday from 10 to 12. All I can do at this point is pass everything along to y'all that I can get because you can't attend a meeting, but I did the best I could.
Yeah, I just got one more
Got no
thing to say. You're
comments.
finished, right?
Yeah.
Sandy, you know, you sat here today and you told somebody to sue you,
Absolutely.
okay? That's the second time you've done that and put this board in jeopardy, and I'd like you to make a
No,
note
I
of
said
that
sue
on the
me.
record.
I didn't say sue the board, Barry.
You're a representative
Both times.
of the board. You
No,
cannot say
both,
that.
I can, absolutely I can.
I don't-
They are threatening me personally. This
Mr.
man
Betzell,
before threatening
just
me
keep that
personally.
record. That's
Matter of
the
fact, he
second
threatened me
time.
for slander. Please
Second
put
time.
it there, and please, once again, sue me, sue me, sue me, as soon as you can.
I move we adjourn.
Well, we're going to adjourn 1 minute.
No, you need the
Yeah,
next meeting.
yeah, next meeting's going to be November the 20th, 2019.
Can we not have it at the same time the county commission has their meeting?
I'm sorry, 11/20/2019.
Is that the same time the county commission?
11/19, should be the 19th, right?
19? Okay, I'm sorry, let's change it all again. It's 11/19/2019.
I'm sorry.
Have you stopped giving us our illegal $200 checks, Miss Secretary?
What was the date again,
You'll
Commissioner?
get them in the mail.
It is the 19th of November.
19th November.
Does that still conflict with the county commissioner?
I asked twice, they won't answer.
That's when our meeting is.
Does it conflict? I don't know.
I have no idea,
I've
you
asked
know,
at the
I don't know.
commission before that we do
Yeah.
not have meetings at the same time as the county. and
Have we
everybody
asked the
said
county if they changed theirs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay,
curious.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You know,
no. Have we been adjourned?
yeah, we're adjourned. Yep. All adjourned.